There were two dukes in the empire, Duke Schutz, Lord of the Battlefields, and Duke Clyde, who was, by concentrating trade, the union of these two had a power in no way inferior to that of the imperial family. They were close friends, but 10 years ago the Duke and Duchess of Clyde fell into a sleep-deprived sleep after falling off a cliff in their carriage. Upon learning of the incident with his close friend, Duke Schutz, rushed to the scene and found the body of the Duke and his wife, as well as the child's clothes. However, he did not search the northern part of the area completely. No traces of the missing child of the Duke and Duchess were found. And 10 years after that event, they finally met, and the Duke claims that he will adopt this child. As in the original story, Duke Schutz found the main character Demian and the girl kept her promise about that he will meet his family and now she will not be kicked out of the shelter. Now, like in the original story, after 4 years, Demian goes to war with Duke Schutz and finds peace by meeting the main character, Ashabel. Well, now the Duke claims that he is also going to adopt a child next to the guy. One of the servants then turns to the Duke and asks if he will make her his adopted daughter, but the man replies that he will not, and he will take her as his daughter-in-law, and the main character is now in shock thinking about what he is talking about, and she was just trying to change the future in which she would be thrown out on the street, but she didn't expect that she would be made a daughter-in-law. A little while ago, a man looked at the children and said that they were in good condition. The maid replied that this was true and that in their shelter, children came first, after which the man claimed that he would choose that child. It was an era in which money flowed like water, and the empire consistently won victories in wars large and small. Aristocrats frustrated that they could spend enough money found a way to show off their capital and generosity to the world, and began adopting war orphans. This was the official version. The main character looking at the shelter worker understood that it was all a lie, and they were fed and washed only so that they could look good and satisfy the aristocrats with their appearance. The director brought only beautiful orphans to the shelter. She also found a baby one day and asked the little beauty, "Why is she sitting there and crying, and where is her mother?" The main character at this time understands that she is also one of those children. However, the director overlooked an important fact, and that was that her mother was a famous thief who shook the empire. Although she was caught stealing the Grand Countess's things and was put into eternal sleep, who would want to hit the daughter of a thief? And on the day she was brought back for the 3rd time, she understood everything after getting into an accident, and the girl learned that all this is a world inside a book. In the world she lived in, things were created out of nothing, and people were easily controlled simply by touching them. In a past life, she worked to materialize these ideas, and among the vague memories, she could see that she really enjoyed this work. And the girl understands that since she realized her previous life, it is worth saying that it was a lucky incident. But she still has one question, and among many books, only this novel clearly reminds him of it, although he doesn't even remember its title. But in any case, the girl is glad that she knows the future. At this time, the director enters the room and the main character in the form of her face. She understands that, judging by the way she looks, it looks like she has lost money gambling again, and it would be better for her not to play games in which there is no chance from the start. And the main character also thinks what is behind her, and is it really a new child? But he is not nervous and is absolutely calm. At this time, the woman says that the children should get to know each other because this is a new friend who will live with them from today. And also, his name is Demian, and then the young lady understands that this guy has arrived, and he is a child who never lets you forget that this place is a book hoax. The main male character who would later overthrow the Emperor Damian Clyde, and she bullied the main character in the orphanage for which she was kicked out, and she is a villain named Elida. The life of the main character was truly miserable. The boy's father owned the best lands in the empire, and the duchy was so influential that there was talk about it, that the Clyde family became the center of the empire, taking over from the imperial family. As a result, the emperor became jealous of his power and secretly got rid of the Clydes. The duke's will was revealed in his testament, as if he had foreseen this incident, and he entrusted all the wealth of his family as well as to his only friend Erhard. From then on, all greedy eyes were fixed on Duke Erhard Schutz and the ruler of the barren north. Swarming with monsters, he was the most monster of the battlefields. The aristocrats then whispered and wondered if Duke Schutz was getting all the territories of Duke Clyde. But even if they are distant relatives, it all belongs to the Clyde-Nora family. Since it is written in the will, then nothing can be done. The Duke at this time only thought that he had to find a child, and that he had to have black hair and blue eyes just like the elder Clyde. And even though the forest is teeming with monsters, this guy will definitely survive. The main character remembers all this at this time, and he understands that even if the guy was a slave treated like an animal, but as expected, he is the main male character, and despite everything, he will remain alive. And in the novel, it is written that he experienced a lot, but she did not expect that everything would be so bad. But she is also quite small compared to her peers, but he is even smaller than her. At this time, the director turns to the children and tells them to explain to the boy the rules of their shelter and what he needs to know. But then everyone was just silent, and someone claimed that they were already overcrowded, but they brought in a newcomer again. The red-haired boy claimed that the number of mouths to feed had increased again, so their food portion would decrease. His name was Carson, and this boy was the head of the orphanage. The boy then turned to the kid and insisted that all he had to do was obey them. He then asked if the boy was listening and told him to look him in the face. Someone then told the elder that he didn't like the look of this guy, and the young man with red hair replied that his appearance was also so-so and suggested that he stretch his arms in the morning. The main character understands that they will definitely regret this because in the original story, she helped Carson's gang humiliate Damien, and in the end, she was kicked out of the orphanage. After this, naturally, she fell into a lonely, crippling sleep, but the girl thinks that in this life she will save the guy. The red-haired boy turns to her at this time and asks if she wants to join in too, but the girl replies that she doesn't want to. After which, Carson claims that she always agrees, so why is she refusing now? And the young lady replies that the guy just looks weak. Well, when the young lady looks into the guy's eyes, she is a little surprised, and the red-haired boy claims that he agrees and that the guy looks very useless. At this time, the girl only remembers how someone said that she was the daughter of a dirty thief and told her to get out right now. So the girl only shudders from this, and at this time the director enters the room and states that it is time to prepare for dinner. The teacher also says that everyone needs to go their separate ways to do their jobs, to which they agree. And one of the girls? He tells his sister that it's time for them to go to, which the girl agrees and understands that Carson's bullying. The main character will start from this moment, and if she pretends not to notice anything and does not interfere, who will be able to avoid at least a bad end for herself. The girl then goes into the kitchen and washes potatoes, and also realizes that this is not even her life. And the guy is the main character, so everything will be fine for him, and the girl is thinking about what she should do when she leaves the orphanage, and the young man will somehow endure because he will just be beaten a little. Well, then the girl also remembers his look, and she understands that she has seen many people bully others, and it all ended very badly. After which she approaches one of the doors and thinks that she will help just once, and after that she will not interfere in the story of the main character. After which the girl knocks on the door, and a young man with red hair opens the door. He also asks if it was Alida and claims that he thought it was the director, and was also scared. The young lady then asks what they are doing there, and the guy asks what she thinks, after which he points to the boy sitting near the bed. And he asks if she sees that they are teaching a newbie, and this is some kind of welcoming ceremony, after which he asks if the girl wants him to say something funny and lifts the main character. He claims that he thought it was a girl, but it turns out to be a guy. And isn't it funny, because he is a guy and has such a cute face. Alida then says that it is in every way better than his mug, after which the young man with red hair only gets angry and asks what she is talking about. And the main character with a smile on her face answers that it's a joke, and the director is looking for him. Carson asks why this witch suddenly needed him, and the girl answers that she looked around and asked where the guy was, and he knows that a woman is not one of those who can wait for long. The red-haired boy then turned to the newcomer and claimed that he was lucky today, after which the guy abandoned him, and also left the room. The young lady then turned to the young man and asked if he was okay. At this time, the young man had just closed the door, and the main character screamed that he would open it so early, after which she handed him the ointment that she had stolen from the director's room and told the young man to apply it because it would make it less painful. Well, the guy replied that it wasn't necessary because in any case he would be beaten again before everything was cured, so there was no need for it. The main character then watched the boy with a little surprise and understood that resistance breeds even more violence. And the fact that this child already knows a simple way to soften the violence is a little surprising. Well, the girl claims that it is better than not applying any at all and hands him the mother and also tells him to apply it himself later. After which, the young lady comes out and realizes that she thought she already knew all of Damien's pain from the book. But seeing the face of a boy who looks like her, for some reason she catches her breath a little while later. The director turns to the children and tells them to. They sat quietly and also ate and did not talk during the meal. The main character then wonders if the guy really misses meals, and he is not visible. Elida also understands that if he misses dinner, he will starve until tomorrow. At this time, the young man who is sitting next to the girl, he claims that if she is not going to eat the bread, then he asks if he can eat it. However, the girl apologizes to Tommy, but claims that it is impossible. Hey, the young man then says that she does not eat him, and the main character replies that she will eat it later, and understands that of course she doesn't know whether the guy will eat it or not. But a little while later, she already enters the room and realizes that it is actually time to clean the kitchen. But it seems she is too worried about this guy. The girl also sees that he is not in the bedroom, and he thinks that if not there, then where could he be? Well, then someone turns to the young lady and asks what she is doing in an empty room. And is he really looking for a ghost? When the young lady turns around, she sees that it is Carson. She then asks why she was looking for a ghost and she was just checking to see if Betty was back. The guy then asks if it's true, after which he claims that although it is, there are much more fun things to do than look for a ghost. Elide realizes that he is talking about Damien. The guy's friend asks if Carson is talking about Damien, but he secretly overheard the director's conversation, and they say that he was a slave before he got there and also caught monsters in the dark. Carson then turns to the young lady and asks if she is interested in this little guy. However, the main character understands that Carson killed most of the children, but was even more cruel. To those she showed interest in, and it was too grave a crime to show her interest in this boy. So now the main character replies that there is nothing like that, and also claims that it seems that the child who was injured went to the warehouse. The young man with red hair then claims that no one can go there except the teachers, and why would the boy go there at all? And the girl replies that maybe they care about him especially. But she saw how he entered there with assistant teachers, and there were a lot of tasty things in the warehouse, and how the guy said he was so handsome, and maybe that's why. And he knows that beautiful children are more useful to the shelter, because earlier he said that the guy caught a monster and therefore he has incredible skills, and that's why he wasn't forced to clean Elide. Understands that Damien doesn't work because he's a slave and has a separate master, but Carson doesn't know that. The young man at this time turns to the girl and asks if she didn't see that this idiot couldn't even move in front of them, and Elida understands that usually, at such moments, they say that they felt sorry for the newcomer, after which she asks if this means that Carson is stronger, to which he replies that yes. And then the guy says that they should go to the warehouse, after which the main character says that Carson should wait, and pulling out bread from her purse insists that he take it because she left it especially for him. The guy then asked why so suddenly, after which, embarrassed, he replied that he would eat it. A little while later, the young lady is already heading outside and realizes that Carson might be being scolded now. At this time, one of the women does just that, after which she screams, "How dare they steal food?" Damien was there, but the woman told him to be quiet and asked what kind of bread he had in his hands. Elida realizes that she was going to give this bread to Damien, but she managed to use it successfully. The girl also looks around and wonders where the boy is. She also remembers the words of the other boys about that this idiot was a slave before he came there, and they say that he even caught what kind of monster it was in the dark. And the main character is now thinking, is it really like that? But she wouldn't want the guy to be there. In the original novel, the Duke asks young Damien if he has ever learned to handle a ball, as he has incredible skills. Then the young man replied that in order to survive in the darkness, he had no choice but to learn to wield a sword. The girl thought that this was a cliché hinting at the development of the main character, but now she was approaching the guy. She, with a smile on her face, claims that he will get hurt this way and asks if the young man knows how hard it will be if he catches a cold. The young lady also claims that Carson's group was caught by the teacher, so today the guy can sleep peacefully, so the young lady suggests returning. Damien claims that even if they caught him, it's only today, and tomorrow the guy will return again, and it's more convenient for him here than going back there. And now the girl understands that this child's life has been nothing but a tragedy up until now, and that he has locked himself in deep darkness. It was so painful that he felt so comfortable, and probably for the same reason, he took hold of the ball. The girl also thinks about what kind of person would willingly want to be alone in the dark. After which she claims that they will no longer be there because he will return and they will soon disappear, and she promises that he was no longer in any danger, so the girl suggested that he return. The young man then looks at the main character in shock and remembers how she also offered him the ointment, after which he only asks why she is doing this. Elida understands that, as she said, she really wanted this, and she doesn't know if this child will be able to understand her, but she cannot fall into eternal sleep like in the original. So now she turns to the young man and tells him to get up quickly, because she couldn't even eat normally because she was worried about him, so she suggests going out to eat. The young man then talks about food and extends his hand to the young lady. The girl then realizes that fortunately Damien did not resist, and this alone has already changed her fate. The young man at this time walks behind the girl and smiles. A little while later, the main character already shows the boy to be quiet and claims that in the garden, everything needs to be done as quietly as possible. After all, the director and teachers went to the casino, but who knows, someone could have stayed. After which the young lady puts a lamp on the table and tells the guy to now put it on, to which the young man is a little surprised. And Elida tells him once again to undress because he can't wash with his clothes on. The young man then just looks at her in shock, and the girl claims that there is hot water in the bathroom in the director's room, and doesn't he know that his body is now cold as ice, and if the guy gets frostbite, then he will have to amputate either an arm or a leg or both at once. Therefore, the girl claims that this cannot be allowed, and if he is uncomfortable with her being around, then she will move away. However, the young man then claims that his body is disgusting. The main character then understands that before he got to the shelter, the guy lived like a slave, and there must be many wounds on his body, after which the young man apologizes and claims that she will be surprised when she sees his body. However, the girl then takes the guy by the hands and says that it is not disgusting, so he doesn't need to be so embarrassed or apologize because there's nothing wrong with that. After which the girl tells him to come in faster because they don't know exactly when the director will return, so they can't waste time, and even though it's inconvenient, the girl asks if he can wash himself, to which the young man agrees, and the girl asserts that she will find clothes and put them in front of the door, so let him soak his thoroughly in warm water and wash them. After which the girl also says that this is great, and then she will go rob the warehouse, and the young man then climbs into the bathtub. And he thinks how warm it is there. A little while later, the main character already asks if he has washed himself, and also asks if the guy regrets agreeing. The girl also says that the clothes are a little big, but she took the smallest set. However, the guy is such a cutie, and the girl asks how about continuing to wear this, after which she hands over the plate. And he says that what's more important is that she stole food from the warehouse while he was washing himself. The young man then looks at this with a little surprise, and the main character is interested in what it is and whether he has never eaten anything like this, to which the young man agrees, and the main character thinks about what the merchants fed this little boy and how he grew up in general. After which the girl also turns to the young man and tells him to make a sandwich because it is very tasty, and shows how to eat it. The guy then does the same and asks if she is right. The girl answers that yes, and everything is correct. After which the young man thinks how delicious it is, and the main character thinks that he looks like a puppy with big cheeks. After which she also turns to him and asks if he hasn't listened to the hair. And he also tells the young man to stand for a second because he just came from a cold place, and if he leaves things like this, he might catch a cold. The main character then dries his hair and realizes that the guy really does look like a puppy, but the personal boundary is much smaller than before. Well, then the young lady notices some kind of scar on the guy's neck and realizes that it looks like a monster's bite. The young man then claims that it was too early for him, so the owner made him grow his hair. and the main character understands that in the novel there was a story about how the guy had long hair in those days, and this was the reason. So the young lady thinks how cruel this novel is towards young Damien, and it's hard to even appreciate it. The young lady also asks if his hair bothers him now that it is so long. Then the girl picks them up and realizes that it won't be so easy for her to live inside the novel. She also thinks how handsome the young man is, and he is even more handsome than she thought. But the main character understands that it is not the time to think about it, after which the young man puts his hand to his forehead and asks if anything hurts because he seems to have a fever. The guy replies that no, and he's just a little hot too, which the girl replies that then thank God. And he thinks that it's good that he doesn't have a cold, after which the girl goes with him to the bedroom. And when he opens the door, he claims that from now on they will sleep there. One of the inhabitants of this room wakes up and asks if it is Ellie and who is with her, and the girl whispers for Betty to be quieter because Tommy will wake up and it is nothing serious, so the guy can go back to sleep. The main character looks at the empty beds and understands that this is great because Carson's gang is not there, but who knows? She then points to her bed and claims that it is in the middle by the window and Damien's bed is by the door. They should have slept separately initially. Well, since today is the first night the girl offers him to sleep together in her bed, the young man is then a little surprised and asks if he will really sleep there. And the girl just tells him to go faster because she wants to sleep, after which the young man does so. The main character wonders if this is the first time he slept on a bed because he looks awkward. Elida also covers the guy, but when she approaches him, she thinks what kind of smell it is because she also secretly washed herself in the director's room. But there is nothing there that smells like that, but the young lady understands that she now looks like a pervert, after which he invites the guy to sleep and wishes him pleasant dreams, to which the young man remains silent, and the girl asks if he will wish her pleasant dreams in return. After which the guy says that he wishes her sweet dreams too and covers himself with the blanket a little more. The main character then says yes and wishes him good night, after which she closes her eyes. And the young man at this time watches her and thinks that the girl is simply an incredible child. He also wonders if the young lady cares about him so much because of guilt, but he is a slave, so it is natural for him to stay away from everyone. But now he remembers everything the young lady did for him and wonders if he really isn't disgusting. He also remembers the bright, beautiful eyes of the young lady and understands that he should not even hope for anything. But then the guy starts dreaming about something, and when the young man turns around in his dream, he sees a monster. At this time, someone giggles and asks why he froze because a slave should entertain his master and let him fight the monster faster. The woman also claimed that she even got him something to help him win so that he wouldn't lose. The guy understood that no one would ever help him, and if he didn't put the monster into the crippled elephant, the monster would take his life. And the guy understood that he had to pull himself together and also come to his senses, because if he couldn't, then everything would be bad. At this time, the main character tries to wake up the young man, and then he finally opens his eyes. Elida asks if he is okay and also whether he had a nightmare or whether he has caught a cold. The girl puts her hand on the guy's forehead and claims that he doesn't have a fever, but he's covered in sweat. And the young lady also asks if he is okay, however the guy at this time is still waking up from sleep. And when he sees Elida in front of him, he understands that no one ever cared about him until yesterday, not even himself. But the young lady is different, and the girl now claims that she will bring a wet towel and then she is going to go. However, the young man grabs her by the dress and tells her to wait because he is fine, and he is not in any pain. Elida asks if this is true, but tells him not to overexert himself anyway, after which he strokes the guy's head. The young man at this time thinks that this is a little strange, but when he is with Yeli, he feels ticklish and warm, as if he feels like he swallowed the sun into his stomach, and maybe he should say that he is in pain. But at this time he hears some kind of rumble, and then a young man with red hair bursts into the room. He looks very angry and asks if Elida did it on purpose, and if that idiot wasn't in the warehouse. And because of her, the teacher caught him, so the young man asks if she even knows what he had to go through. And it's all because of this guy. The main character then asks why the guy blames Damien for this, and he claims that the fool is the one who was deceived. The girl also understands that the clock has rung, so the teachers will come soon. However, the guy immediately rushes at the young lady and screams how she could do this to him. But at that very moment, the teacher enters the room and screams, "What is the boy doing?" And has he really still not corrected his behavior? The young man then turns to the teacher in shock and says that no, it was Alida who started all this and she is to blame for everything. The young man then screams that the two behind him also heard everything, and the teacher only asks what kind of nonsense he is talking about. After all, he is the first to start a fight every day, so the aristocrats are not at all interested in him. Carson asks to believe him and claims that yesterday they were at the warehouse precisely because of Alida. The teacher then asks if this is true. The girl replies that yesterday Demian was so ill and had a fever. So she went to get some medicine, but Carson kept repeating that all the teachers had gone to the casino. The young man then cried out, "When did he ever say that?" However, the girl with tears in her eyes claims that this is true, and how could their caregivers leave the children alone and go to the casino because this is impossible, and the young lady asks if this is true. The woman then doesn't even know what to answer, and the young lady understands that now it's time to drive a wedge so that they don't interrogate her anymore, after which she turns to the teacher. And he asks if the doors to the warehouse were open last night. The woman replies that the director gave her some work yesterday. That's why she was the last one to close the door to the warehouse. At this time, the teacher remembers what happened yesterday. And when one man came, he asked if everything would really be okay, because it seemed to him that they would be caught. But the woman answered that everything was okay. After all, there is no better place for secret meetings. The girl at this time claims that she definitely left the keys in the director's office, and the warehouse could not be open. But it seems she managed to lose the key, so she asks for forgiveness. The teacher then says that everything is fine and that the girl should not behave like that. However, the little girl cries and claims that it is her fault that she was careless. Therefore, she will go with Carson to the principal. However, the woman then screams that no, and then says that, well, she doesn't continue. After which he angrily turns to the boy and screams, "What casino? And why is he lying?" Because of him, something bad could have happened to Demian. The young man then cries out that he has never done anything like this before as well. Elida is now lying. However, the woman tells the guy to stop making excuses, and the show is behind her, after which the young man screams that it really wasn't him. After the guy is taken away, the main character understands that now he will not bother Demian for some time, after which the young lady turns to Betty and Tommy and says that they need to go down quickly so that the teachers don't scold them, so let them wash up quickly and go. However, the girl then runs up to the young lady and addresses her, asking what is wrong with her. And the girl replies that she will also come down soon, and the little girl agrees and also says that her sister should definitely not be late. After they leave, the young lady looks at Demian and says that there were no teachers yesterday. And the main character at this time claims that she told the guy that she would protect him from those guys, and she is taking revenge on them for him. The guy then asks in shock if it's really for him and why, and the girl sits down on the bed. And she says that initially adults should help children. And of course, so far, among the adults she has met, there are no such people. But the girl turns to Demian and claims that there will definitely be such a person in his life. And he can be trusted. The young man then asks, what will happen if he trusts? And the girl replies that he will become happier, to which the guy only remains silent, and at this time, a young man with red hair runs into the room and tells Elida to quickly go down to the communications center and wake up the director. And if they hesitate, the director will scold them, so they need to go quickly. The main character then runs with the young man, and he, looking at her, thinks what kind of feeling this is. Carson at this time claims that he will not leave it so easily, and because of them he ended up alone in this dirty room. But he still thinks why the girl suddenly took Damian's side, and why she cares about him so much as if it was her brother who wanted to see him for the first time. But this will not last long, and Elida will belong only to him. The girl at this time is cooking soup in the kitchen, and when she tastes it, she realizes that it's fine as is. She also turns to Demian and tells him to ladle the soup once. The young man then does this, and the main character looking at him understands that recently he has not even answered her, and does he still worry about the fact that she lied? Although he had been subjected to violence until now and was already accustomed to it, he did not know about it before. What is a lie? And he must be confused. Elida turns to the young man and asks if he is still worried about what happened this morning. The guy then asks what she is talking about, and the girl claims that she is talking about the fact that she deceived the man. to which the young man wants to say no. However, the main character tells him not to worry too much, because revenge is something that needs to be done properly, and she lied, but this is better. It is stupid to get caught by yourself, so no matter how he lived until now, let the young man not suffer from the past in the future. And the main character asks if he understood. The guy understands that he is hearing something like this for the first time and could only survive by doing what the owner told him. That's why now the guy understands that he will never lose to anyone in the future. And just as she protected him in this way, he will protect her in any way he can. The director is sitting on the couch at this time and talking about how her head is splitting, but she didn't drink that much at the casino, after which she gets up from the couch and realizes that in order to sober up, she needs to eat something. But when a woman enters the kitchen, she is a little surprised and wonders why the drain is working there. But even if she hadn't lost then, and even if she hadn't drunk so much, she could have avoided this. One of the women told the director of the shelter to take care of this child until she came back to pick him up, and in this way she would write off the woman's debt. She told her uncles that it was just a new child, but in fact it was a slave who had a master who would soon return for him. If his master finds out that she made the guy work, he will seize on it and create a problem for her, so she turns to Damien. But at that very moment, she hears the teacher screaming at me whether Carson is going to come back, and also when he left the room. However, the young man only screams for the woman to let him go, because he is not guilty of anything. The headmistress then approaches them and asks, "What is the matter?" The teacher turns to the headmistress and states that, according to her colleagues, this child has been causing trouble lately and even stole bread from the warehouse. The young man screams that it is not true, and that he did not steal anything but received the bread from another person. However, the headmistress tells him to shut up, and this is not the first time the guy has stolen something, and after all this, he still dares to make noise. The woman also claims that he needs additional education, after which she tells the teacher to leave it to her, to which she agrees. And when the headmistress grabs the guy by the hand, he thinks that this can't be, and he can't get one for it, after which the young man screams that in fact he was there too. After all, Damien was there too, but he managed to escape. However, the main character replies that no, and that day Damien wasn't in the warehouse because the boy was sick, so he was in the room with her the whole time. Carson asks why Ellie keeps lying, and it was she who sent him to the warehouse. The young lady then turns to the principal and claims that she herself knows very well how many children suffer from his bullying. And then the woman looks at the baby and remembers how she returned to the orphanage again, and also asked why she was there again. The headmistress wanted to know if she was really asking, because she didn't know. After all, it's all because of the despicable mother of the baby. The woman also asked what time it was, and it's infuriating that she is returned every time. The headmistress understands that this girl has always been a quiet child, but now she has stepped forward, so something is fishy there. The red-haired young man screams at this time, asking the director to believe him and that it is all a lie. The woman then only asserts that this also infuriates her and says that Malène herself should sort it out completely, as well as the recently arrived child. She didn't give any work, to which the teacher agreed, but the headmistress only left in anger. The blonde also turns to Damien and tells him to go to the canteen first because she needs to stay there to work. The guy remains silent after this, but grabs the young lady's dress and claims that they will soon finish preparing the food and that she will immediately come to him. The girl understands that the reason why the director restricted Damien from work is because he has an owner and not because she singles him out. But for the other children, it will definitely catch their eye and look that way. So there is nothing good about this, and now the young lady asks if Damien can wait for her. But the young man still holds on to her dress, after which the teacher turns to him and tells him to go with her. The red-haired boy asks if the boy will be scolded, and this teacher hits him very hard. Betty says that the boy should be scared. The main character at this time looks at these two and understands that it is good that they are so mistaken now, but in fact, Damien is kept away from any work. And then the girl thinks that she should finish quickly and go after Damien. A little while later, the guy is already sitting in the dining room, but in the very corner of the room, the young man understands that he does not like being alone, but he does not want to become hateful to Ellie. But then the guy hears and when he raises his head, he sees that it is the main character. The young lady only asks if he is waiting for her, after which he suggests going to eat. Damien asks if she's finished yet, to which the girl replies and the young man is also interested. Can he eat with her? To which the young lady agrees and claims that the food is very tasty today. Well, then someone tells the guy to wait because his place is on the right of Elida. The main character then thinks that Tommy is so excited because Karsena, who always followed her, is not around, after which she tells the guy to give in to Damien just once today because he just arrived. However, Tommy replies that he doesn't want to, and the young lady claims that cool guys know how to give up their seat to others, after which the young man asks if this is true. And he also agrees and claims that just today he will give in once because he is a cool guy. And the main character then realizes that Tommy is such a child, after which she tells Damien to sit next to her, to which he agrees. Tommy then looks at the guy and realizes that he looks kind and naive. But at that very moment they hear someone scream and then see that it is Betty. The girl cries and claims that her doll got wet in the soup, after which she tells the main character that Damien and Tommy should eat, and that she will be back soon. The girl also takes the baby in her arms and tells Betty not to worry because the doll is only a little wet. So I just need to wash this little part and that's it, and my sister will clean it for Betty. Damien then watches the main character leave and also looks at Tommy. The red-haired boy then extends his hand and says that it is nice to meet him, and it seems that the boy has become closer to Ellie. So he suggests getting along from now on, but the young man with black hair just turns around, and Tommy realizes that he seems to be afraid of people, after which he claims that he is the same friend of the young lady, so he offers to get along. Damien asks if the guy says that he is her friend, to which he replies that yes, and he is Ellie's closest friend. However, the young man with black hair looks at him coldly after this, which makes the guy scared. And a little while later, the main character comes into the room and then turns to Damien and asks if he is eating. The young man nods and then eats his portion, and the main character turns to Tommy and asks what's wrong with him. Damien then looks at the guy angrily again, after which he says that nothing is wrong, and he doesn't understand how he could think that this young man is naive, but he is no different from a wild animal. Therefore, Ellie is deceived by the main character. A little while later, she watches as the young man comes out of the shower, and she thinks that his cheeks are just shining, and she also wants to touch them. The guy looks at her, and the young lady understands that no matter how much she wants to squeeze them, she must restrain herself because he has only just begun to open up to her. After which, the girl asks if he feels better after a shower, and also tells the young man to come to her, to which he agrees. And then the main character wipes his face and also understands that no matter how much you look, the guy is handsome, and probably his hair is really in his way and she wants to cut it off. But any aristocrat, seeing such a face, he will definitely want to take it away. So this cannot be allowed because Damien's adoptive father must be Duke Schutz, or this beauty must be hidden by any means. After which the young lady turns to the guy and suggests that he go to bed. Then they enter the room. Then the girl points to one of the beds and claims that from today on he will sleep on it. The young man then asks if he will sleep alone, and the main character asks what it is and whether he doesn't like it. But the guy looks a little upset after that, and the girl wonders if he really wants to say something. However, Damien only turns around and heads towards the bed, after which he lies down in it. Ellie understands that a lot has happened today, and he is probably tired, after which the girl goes to bed. And then he turns to Damien and wishes him good night and sweet dreams. The young man is silent for a while after this, and then addresses the young lady by name and wishes her sweet dreams too. The girl is very surprised by this and realizes that the guy called her by name for the first time. But she was so happy to hear just a few words from this little boy. A short time later, the young lady wakes up in the middle of the night and realizes that she needs to go to the toilet. However, when the girl looks at the bed next to her, she realizes that there is no one there. After which, the young lady asks where Damien and the little girl with purple hair went. He replies that his brother Carson has returned, to which the main character is very surprised. Damien is outside at this time, and Carson is screaming, wondering if he even understands how much he had to endure because of this guy. He also looks at this young man and cries out that he sees that he is proud that Ellie cares about him, but for her, he is nothing. Damien then looks threateningly at Carson, who only asks why the guy is looking at him like that, and what he is going to do. The brunette at this time only continues to look at him, after which he remembers the words of the young lady that he will no longer suffer from them. and the young man is about to attack these scoundrels, but the guy with red hair screams that Ellie is a weakling like him, that is weaklings who cannot defend themselves. The brunette stops after this, and the young man with red hair screams that he too is just one of those weaklings. And that is the only reason why the young lady cares about him, and not because he is special to her. The boy then remembers how the girl claimed at their first meeting that the boy simply looked weak. The young man also realizes that when he was a slave, he heard countless times that he was useless and stupid. But he thinks why only when Carson said that for Ellie he was nobody. He felt like he was falling into a swamp and was burning. The red-haired boy at this time raises his leg in order to hit the guy. And he screams so that he knows his place because he is behaving too insolently for a slave, after which he also turns to the young man and states that it seems to him that he misunderstood this since they live in the same place, after which he takes the guy and throws him into the lake, telling him to cool his head there. And the young man falling into the lake only repeats Ellie's name. Carson is then a little surprised. After all, he sees that the girl caught this guy, and the main character at this time. He turns around furiously and asks what the hell the guy is doing. The girl remembers how she ran as fast as she could. And I also thought that all the children that Carson doesn't like, he definitely pushes into the lake, and in such a cold winter, Damien is in danger. The girl also asks that the guy be okay, and now she is asking if Carson has gone crazy. And she knew he was crazy, but what the hell is he doing with this kid? The red-haired boy is thinking at this time, what is going on and why is Ellie behaving like this with him? And if you think about it, at some point, instead of mocking other people, she began to back down. And he also does not understand why the girl is so especially kind to this child. And also, what the hell kind of child is this? The young lady at this time turns to Damavin and claims that she will help him with the treatment when they return. Carson at this time claims that he did not like it from the very beginning, after which he did not like it at all. He runs at the young man with his fists, and also screams that because of him everyone has become strange, or also asks what the hell the girl is doing. However, the main character then grabs Damien and jumps to the side. Carson then only sees in front of him his reflection in the water and then falls into it. The other guys are worried about the guy, and also asks if he is okay and if he can get up. Ellie claims that this is why you need to know Mira, and the guy is seriously so nasty, after which the young lady runs away and claims that there is no point in even talking to him anymore. The girl drags the guy along with her, and he realizes that he sees her angry for the first time, but he doesn't understand why she's so angry. And is it because he is weak or because he irritates her? And the main character at this time turns to Damien and asks why he stood motionless earlier and also why he did not resist. The guy then understands that the girl was really angry because of him, and also asks if he is pathetic and if she feels sorry for him, and also if that is why she cares so much. The main character is then only surprised and asks what he is talking about, but the young man claims that if this is so, then there is no need to worry about him anymore. After all, he is already used to this kind of thing, so nothing will happen to him. However, the main character then grabs the guy by the shoulders, and she asks what he is saying and also whether he thinks that she cared about him all this time, only because she felt sorry for him. Ellie then apologizes for making him think that way, and also apologizes for saying that he looks weak. And she should have immediately apologized for this, so now the girl claims that she does not consider him weak and, on the contrary, thinks that he is stronger than anyone. The young man then claims that it was not because he wanted to hear it, and understands that it could be because he was sure that the girl cared out of pity. But Ellie's words about him being strong are not at all appropriate, and the young man has tears in his eyes. Says Ellie's name. The main character is then shocked and wonders if she said something wrong. And the young man then claims that he thought he was annoying Ellie. The young lady then asks why he should irritate her, and the guy replies that it's simple. And the girl says that if he continues to endure this, it will hurt, so let him look at her. After which, the young lady tells him to stop crying, and the guy asks again if she hates him. Ellie wonders why she would hate him. And then the guy says that she avoided his gaze, and the young lady asks when... And the guy replies that she definitely talked about heart pain. The young lady then remembers how she said that her heart was going to jump out of her chest when she saw the guy take off his shirt. And now she claims that it was not because she hated him, but because there was another reason. However, the young man then claims that as he thought Ellie hates him, after which the main character screams in shock that she will no longer avoid him, and the guy asks if this is true. After which, the young lady makes a pinky promise and asks if he believes it now. The guy then wants to say something, and the girl sighs and realizes that the tears have stopped. At this time, the young man claims that from now on he will always hold Ellie's hand, and even during meals, he will always sit next to her. The young lady then replies that it is fine and suggests that they now hold hands and sit next to each other in the dining room, after which she also turns to the boy and claims that if someone bullies him, then he should immediately fight back instead of getting hit himself and should not allow anyone to treat him badly. And immediately asked if something was bothering him and also so that he would not suffer alone. Then he makes a promise to us with his little fingers, and they go inside. At this time, the young man understands that Ellie's words were true, and he found happiness thanks to her. The young man remembers how the girl claimed that there was a person who would help him. These can be trusted to him, and he will also definitely be happy. And now the guy is thinking, what if this is a misfortune? He couldn't feel so good even if he was in tears. So he wants to be greedy from now on. At this time, the Duke puts someone to sleep, after which he claims that they just wasted their time on useless information, and also says that he and Ante are leaving and moving on to the next area. The main character at this time finishes treating the young man, and she claims that she is finished with the treatment, so she suggests going to bed. But the young man then grabs her by the dress, and the girl asks what is going on, after which he asks if he can sleep with Ellie. And he constantly dreams, which is very scary. Ellie claims that the bed is so narrow and will be uncomfortable, after which the young man with tears in his eyes asks if he really can't. And the main character understands that there is nothing to be done because it is not that difficult. The young man then lies down next to her in bed, and the main character realizes that it seems his mood has improved. And even though she is a minor character, she is still glad that she was able to help him, and she claims that now they look like brother and sister. But the young man at this time claims that he is not Ellie's younger brother. The main character says that he is 11 and she is 13 years old, but after that, the young man only pushes her away a little, and sadly looks away. Ellie wonders if he is angry, but despite the fact that he is small, he is a strong protagonist, and he may be upset by such treatment as a child. After which the girl claims that she was joking, so Damien shouldn't be angry because she was going to say it, that she was warm because she was sleeping next to him, and her soul then turned around a little embarrassedly and said that he did too. The main character then smiled and thought how cute he was, and suggested that he go to bed since it was already quite late. And then they wish each other good night, and when the guy closes his eyes, he also falls asleep. Then he begins to dream of a young lady who dresses him in wine and claims that absolutely everything suits him because he is so handsome. The young man then thanks the girl and claims that thanks to her, he is happy. The next day, the main character claims that he did say that he had a good dream, but the girl asks if it hurts him because he has a fever. The guy replies that it doesn't. And it doesn't hurt him at all, but the main character asks what else doesn't hurt, because you can't tell from her voice that it does. After which he asks him to tell him honestly when he got sick, and the guy replies that it was last night. The main character then asks why he didn't tell her anything, and realizes that she was fast asleep and enjoying her sleep, so what an idiot she is. Ellie then asks Tommy how Damien is doing, and he replies that he has a high temperature and the guy will have to spend a few days in bed. The main character then asks if he heard and today he needs to lie quietly. The young man then asks, what about Ellie? But she answers that she needs to work, because if she doesn't, the director will get angry, and the guy then just thinks whether he will have to split up with Ellie again. The young lady then says that he knows how good she is at work and she will get it done quickly, and also make the guy some soup, so let him close his eyes and count to 100. The guy then agrees but says that the girl should return quickly and asks if she agrees to, which the young lady replies of course and thinks what a cutie the guy is, after which she claims that she will return. And he tells Tommy to take care of this guy, but at the same time the young man only looks at him with threats to you, and Tommy thinks what a fox he is. The main character at this time is cleaning the director's room and understands that she has to go out so she can take the medicine. But this woman has no intention of going out and she is in a bad mood today. At this time, the director turns to Ellie and cries out if she can get out faster, to which the young lady agrees. And she also understands that if she does something wrong, she might get it, so it's better for her to clean up outside first. At this time, the director says that despite the fact that there are so many children, finances are completely at zero. And she looks at one of the nightstands and also understands that in order to cover the debts, she will have to sell one of the mana stones. And mana stones are minerals that accumulate mana, and people who do not have it use them when using magic. However, the mana stone itself is a precious mineral and requires poppy to make it, so it sells for a very high price. At this time, the woman takes one of these in her hand and understands that this is true and that she collected them for so long and so hard that she will never sell them. The headmistress also looks at the girl furiously and understands that if she were not the daughter of a thief, then she could sell the baby for a lot of money and pay off all her debts. At this time, one of the teachers enters the room and addresses the director. And she also claims that, as she already said, because of Duke Schutz, the number of aristocrats wishing to adopt orphans has significantly decreased. The woman then puts the stone back and claims that as she thought things cannot continue this way, ever since Duke Schutz began looking for adopted children, he would come to aristocrats and ask if an adopted child had black hair, but he would insist that their eyes were not blue. The aristocrats only trembled with fear, and they stopped adopting children for fear of meeting the Duke. At this time, the headmistress asks if Malin really heard the information well, to which the girl replies that let her spread rumors everywhere that the Duke's son is now there. To which the headmistress replies that she is doing well, and the girl at this time is a little puzzled and turns to the headmistress. And he says that if they deceive him and sell another child and he finds out, then what will happen to them? After all, it's not just anyone but Duke Schutz himself. However, the woman says that this girl should not talk all this nonsense because in any case the Duke himself has never personally seen this child, so he certainly has no way of determining whether it is real or not. Therefore, let the woman simply do what she asks to, which the girl agrees and the main character understands. That the Duke is already on his way there to save Damien. The man is at this time in another aristocrat's, and having plunged many servants into eternal sleep, he claims that it is unbearable, and also asks if they really thought that they can break him with this aroma of medicinal herbs. The man then asks for forgiveness and claims that they have committed a sin, and the woman then screams for the pig to have mercy on them just once. After all, they didn't know that this man was Duke Schutz, so she asks for mercy. The young man then turns to the Duke and tells him to first listen and see if they came there to put everyone into eternal sleep. But the man claims that they have committed a sin and want to pay with their lives, and due to his character, he cannot ignore such a request. After which he says that if they do not want to fall into a crippled sleep, then let them answer where the child is, and the woman then understands that this means that the slave was actually the Duke's son, after which she claims that he is in the shelter, and this is a shelter that is run by her friend, and she also just thought that it would be better for the child to live in a shelter than in such a harsh place. But the Duke at this time only swings his sword and asks if they really want to plunge into a crippled sleep so much. However, then someone turns to the Duke, after which he stops and asks what is going on. And the young man claims that it doesn't look like these two are lying because he received the message a few days ago. And it says that the child they were looking for is in a nearby saint's shelter. The Duke then asks why they are only telling about this now when they have already searched all the shelters in the empire. And the man replies that it is only called an orphanage. In reality, it is a place where orphans are taken to do all sorts of dirty work. The Duke then puts a sword to the young man's throat, and he claims that there are many children there who are adopted for money and literally sold, so he wanted to tell him after confirming the information. However, the Duke at this time only claims that he wants to plunge the boy into a cured sleep right there. The young man then asks the Duke for forgiveness, but he only turns to the guy on the ground and asks if they sent the child to the saint's shelter, to which he cries out that everything is correct. The Duke then claims that he will be punished later, so let the guy send a message to the shelter that they are going to visit right now. But then he still remembers something and claims that first he needs to deal with these two, after which he plunges them into eternal sleep. At this time, the headmistress only screams that they are already on the edge and now sick children have appeared. She also cries out who could possibly feel well after falling into the lakes in such weather. The woman understands that the Duke will arrive very soon and she cannot show him the sick child. Therefore, first of all, it is worth giving him at least a cheap medicine to show him in good shape, and it is a pity, but you will have to sell at least one mana stone. However, when the woman looks at her collection, she is shocked to realize that one of them is missing. Then he asks how it happened, and the main character is wringing out the rag. And she wonders how high the boy's temperature is, after which she claims that the wet towel has become warm. So she goes and soaks it in cold water again. The guy then turns to Ellie, and he asks her not to leave because he doesn't want to be alone, and the main character claims that he has such a high temperature, to which the young man replies that he doesn't care. Ellie then thinks that he will soon fall asleep, so she thinks that she will wait a little. After which she also understands that it seems that he has become much better thanks to the energy of the mana stone that she stole, and who knew that the young man would become so seriously ill. The girl understands that Carson's condition is also bad, but Damien's body was initially weak, and in general Carson and his condition should not worry her. The guy at this time leans against the young lady's hand and says that it is cool. Ellie then thinks how it was possible to torture such a kind and innocent child. After which, the girl understands that he has finally fallen asleep, and also thinks that she needs to quickly go and come back because it would be good to grab something light to eat. Well, then the woman turns to the girl and asks what she is doing there, after which he repeats his question about the main character and thinks about what the director is doing there, but then she just turns around and claims that Damien is sick, so she is taking care of him and was now going to change the water. However, the woman pulls a magic stone out of her pocket and asks what it is then. The young lady then realizes with a smile on her face that she thought the woman wouldn't notice if she took the one that was lying in the corner, after which she claims that she doesn't understand what she's talking about, and Carson was just dragging it around. However, the woman only claims that now the girl also steals. But how can one be so impudent, and is she really so much like her mother? The young lady then asks why she is talking about this, and the woman replies that it is obvious, and the girl said that she would live quietly, so she decided to leave her, but in the end, she repaid her favor with theft. After which she claims that they are using this opportunity to correct her habit, after which she already swings and the main character closes her eyes. However, after the blow, the woman sees Damien in front of the girl, and she is a little surprised. At this time, the young man tells the woman not to hit her. After all, if she hits Ellie, he won't let it go so easily. After which the guy just breathes heavily. And the headmistress asks what he is doing and why he is interfering. She also remembers how the woman who gave her the child told her never to try to hit this child. After all, if she hesitates, he will attack regardless of who the enemy is. At this time, one of the teachers also contacts the headmistress and claims that a message has arrived about this. Shoots will arrive soon, and the woman screams, "Is it really that fast?" After which she tells her to quickly make the children clean up and change their clothes, and also bring all the children with black hair and blue eyes to her office. The woman also claims that they have not yet prepared and will talk later because then the girl will take responsibility for what she did. However, the main character grabs the woman by the dress and asks what about Damien. She claims that the guy has black hair and blue eyes, and the woman is just interested. Does she really need to show this child to the Duke to disgrace herself? After which the young lady wants to object, but at the same time the young man begins to fall off his feet, and the main character in shock grabs him and asks if the guy is hurt. And the director just smirks and claims that the sick child needs to rest, so let the girl take better care of him. The guy then turns to the young lady and she claims that everything is fine, and she will definitely help him meet his family. At this time, the Duke heads to the orphanage, after which he is greeted by the teachers. The man understands that this place is far from the city center and completely isolated. Therefore, it is impossible to get there without horses and a carriage, and it can also be said that it is a good environment for children. But now he asks where the director is, and he had informed about the visit in advance. One of the women claims that since he contacted her in a hurry, it was passed on to the director too late, and now she is on her way there, so let him wait a little. At this time, the man asks, "What about the child?" And one of the women understands that the director told them to keep their mouth shut so they can't answer honestly. At this time, the Duke looks at the teachers and realizes that there is complete chaos there, after which he tells them to stop and he himself will then find the child. After which, he goes to the shelter and says that this is the worst period because little children live in such a cold place. The young man replies that he thinks so too. And the Duke at this time claims that if their words about Clyde's child being there turn out to be a lie, then the guy should immediately get rid of everyone, to which the young man agrees. Well, then the man turns the corner and the main character crashes into him, after which she says that it hurts. The man then wonders if this is really a child, after which he leans over the window and apologizes, and also asks if she can become, after which the young lady smiles and thanks him. The Duke understands that she has such a bright energy about the young lady at this time, claiming that she is in pain, so it is difficult to get up. But the girl asks who they are, and the young man who follows the Duke leans towards her and realizes that it seems the girl does not know that he is the Duke. He then turns to the little girl, but she only asks if they came there to adopt a child. The man then replies that this is true, and the young lady says that that's it, and claims that the children have now been gathered in the principal's office. And he is looking for a child with black hair and blue eyes because they collected 5 of them there. The Duke then claims that a similar director is still there, and the young man next to him claims that she decided to stall for time by allegedly not being there, but he still doesn't understand why. The man then says that, who knows, but he already feels bad, after which he turns to the little girl. And he thanks her for saying this, to which the young lady bows and says that there is nothing to say, after which she says goodbye. And the Duke then says that they should go. The young man then agrees, but when he turns around, he thinks that this girl is a strange child, and for the first time he sees a man who has come face to face with the Duke and has not cried. Well, then he remembers that there was another one like that, and that was a man who didn't even blink when he looked at the Duke, but all that is in the past. Now the director of the shelter greets the Duke and thanks him for visiting their shelter. At this time the man asks what kind of children these are, and the woman pointing to these crying children claims that these are children with black hair and blue eyes, just like he is looking for. So among them, one is definitely the one he is looking for. The woman then also turns to the children and asks in shock what is wrong with them, since they are not so whiny. And the Duke understands that Clyde said that his son's mana is there, so if he is there, the stone will react, but as expected, this is not the case. After which, he turns to Anta and claims that this looks like a lie, so let him put this woman into a crippling sleep. The headmistress is then shocked and asks what the Duke is saying, after which she screams at him so that the Duke saves her, and the one he is looking for is definitely one of these 4. The man then thinks whether she is talking about 4, and also understands that the child he encountered definitely said so. He's looking for a child with black hair and blue eyes, but they collected 5 of them there. After which he claims that one is missing. The woman then asks what he said, and the man just pulls his sword out of its sheath and wonders if she's really going to pretend until the end, after which he puts the sword to the woman's throat and asks where the child she is hiding is. But if she deceives him, she will immediately lose her life. A little while later, the main characters hear some noise outside, and she understands that judging by him, the Duke will soon come there, and also everything is going according to the original as she wanted. But the girl thinks why she is a little sad, but she still understands that for Damien, this is a good event. After which, the young lady turns to the boy and claims that he will not get sick anymore. The young man then asks what she is talking about, and the girl insists that she did promise, which will help him meet his family, but at that very moment the Duke runs into the room and the young man wonders if he really has a family, after which he also thinks who this person is, and he, watching the Duke, understands that this was the first time since the lady had sunk into a crippling sleep that he had seen the Duke behave so emotionally, and he thought that he would never see such behavior again. At that moment the man came closer to the boy, and he understands that he heard that it was a boy, but he was so thin. He also sees that there was a girl next to him, and he also understands that this is the same child he encountered earlier. But the young man immediately gets up from the bed and protects the young lady. The main character is then a little worried. He screams that he can't get up, and the young man only tells the guy not to look at Ellie with such eyes. After all, he won't stand aside if anyone tortures Ellie. The man then realizes that the baby is very similar to an animal, after which he asks who he is going to protect with such a body, but at that very moment something strange happens. And the Duke notices that the stone began to react to the young man's mana, after which he realizes that he has found it after all, and this is Clyde's son. The boy at this time begins to fall off his feet due to fever and overwork. But the Duke at this time claims that there is nothing to worry about because he absorbed the fog that was taken from him, and this, on the contrary, will help increase his endurance. The main character then understands that the guy's temperature has dropped, and the Duke at this time claims that it seems they have found a child, and now he wants to hear an explanation of why the child is in such a state. He also claims that if the answer is a lie, then it is better for them to immediately bite their tongues and calmly accept the immersion into eternal sleep. Now, one of the women then screams that first they will go to the director's request with the adoption documents, and the main character understands that everything is as written in the book, and this man has incredible intimidation skills and can also feed people in a word. The girl gets a little scared after that, and Auntie turns to him and asks if he didn't warn the Duke that people fear him more than ghosts, so he asks if he could look with a less cold gaze since even the teacher avoided it. And this child also fell because of him. The Duke claims that he fell because of illness, but the knight replies that this is impossible. And in any case, the gentleman always makes a terrible, scary impression. Therefore, the little Duke, she definitely doesn't want him to adopt her, after which she asks him if he has thought about it. Well, the man just asks if the guy is asleep, after which he approaches the young man. And he claims that a sick child cannot be left on the floor like this, and also that Ante will change the towel to eat. The guy agrees to this and immediately runs away, and the main character claims that she will do the rest. After which she gets to work, and the Duke claims that she acts as if she knew that he was looking for this particular child. But it was his first time there, so he asks how the girl found out. The young lady understands that he is testing her, and she needs to answer correctly in case she makes a mistake. She might end up on the street like in the original, but she can't lie to him, so what can she say? This is what she knew, and claims to have heard the director talking about how she asked for rumors to be spread, and send a message to the Duke that a child with black hair and blue eyes is there. And the man asks if the girl then deliberately told him that there should be 5 children there. To which the young lady is a little surprised, but understands that if he finds out that she approached him on purpose, he will begin to doubt her, but he is not the one who can notice a slightly clumsy lie. After which, the young lady claims that everything is correct, and she thought that Damien also has black hair and blue eyes, and also he could be the child he is looking for. The man then asks why the girl didn't bring him here right away where the child was. She wanted to know everything about the main character, and she replies that it was because she wanted the Duke to slowly look around the orphanage. And he found out himself what exactly was going on there. At that time, Ante was bringing towels, and the girl claimed that he must have noticed that the teachers didn't care about them at all. The young lady claims that they do all the work themselves, and the teachers leave them every night, after which they go to the casino and also play gambling games and have fun. That's why she wanted the Duke to see the terrible situation there himself. The man at this time sees his ex-wife in the girl, after which he asks what her name is, to which the young lady replies that she is Ellie. And the man turns to her and asks what the boy's name is, to which she replies that he is Damien. And the man says that it is clear, and at this time the director comes to the Duke and claims that she heard him calling her. At this time the woman is thinking, did that girl really tell everything? But if so, then she won't let it go so easily. At this time the man claims that he will adopt this child, to which the woman is surprised. And the Duke claims that there is a child next to him too, and the main character is then a little surprised. And Auntie asks if the Duke will take the girl as an adopted daughter, but he answers that no, and he will take her as a daughter-in-law. And the main character then thinks, what is he talking about? And in general, the person who should be connected with Damien is Duchess Ashabel. However, now the guy turns to Ellie and tells her not to leave. The girl also remembers how he asked if she was really courting him out of pity. And she understands that even though it was only for a short time, she already felt affection for Damien, and in fact, she is happy with the thought that they will never part. However, the headmistress at this time screams that the Duke is not allowed, and he cannot take this slovenly girl. And also, does he really want to establish her as his daughter-in-law? And does he even know what kind of child she is? The woman understands that if this girl goes to the Duke for adoption, they will be exposed, and this must be prevented. After which the woman claims that the girl's mother is a thief who tried to steal Count Lethion's things, and she means that she is the daughter of a thief. The young lady then only looks at the director and understands that she is talking about the story of the thief of the patriarchal empire. When the empire was engulfed in war, a thief broke through the strict security and entered the palace. It is said that the emperor's precious treasure was stolen, and he then mobilized a large number of people to catch the thief, but in the end he could not catch her. Soon after she was captured by Count Lathione, Auntie understands what he heard. This woman was hanged in the county, but this is the first time he hears of her having a daughter. And at this time, the director turns to the Duke and therefore asks him to take her word for it, because the adoption of a daughter-in-law like her would harm the Duke's honor. However, the man only tells her to shut up and asks until when. He still has to listen to this dog's nonsense, and how long he must endure the chatter of one who is no better than a dog. After which he tells the guy to remove this woman from there, which only makes her angry. And then the Duke gets down on one knee in front of the main character and claims that the choice is up to her. And he asks if she will go with him. However, the girl then claims that she has one condition, and let him fire the external educators, and that's all. The headmistress then screams in shock. What is she saying? And the knight understands that the girl will accept the Duke's offer, and even with a special condition. And this child is far from ordinary. The young lady at this time claims that even if they and Damien will be accepted by the 8th Duke, but the other children will still suffer. So she asks to fire these teachers for their sins and make this place a good shelter, so that children are no longer sold as commodities. The Duke then replies that he will do so, after which he gets up and also turns to Ante and tells him to start right away, and taking away the rights of the educators, to which he replies that he understood the Duke. The headmistress is only surprised after this, and they scream that they shouldn't believe the words of this cunning mean girl, but when they take her out the door, she screams that she won't leave it like that. The main character looking at her understands that, even though she asked, she did not think that the Duke would fulfill the request so quickly. At this time, the man claims that from now on this shelter will be the way she wants to see it, so he will ask again, will she go with him? After this, the girl only thinks for what purpose he locks her in, and she doesn't know the reason, but everything is going pretty well, and if Damien left like this, she would be restless for years, until the moment when he meets the real main character, she will be by his side. So now the young lady shakes the Duke's hand and replies that it is good, and she will go too. A little while later, the man is already near the carriage and claims that the former director and educators were kicked out of there, and until the new director arrives, the chosen ones in the Hertz in the Prelude whom they hired will take care of the shelter. They will also join the ranks of the orphanage's caregivers so that there is no shortage, and the main character then thanks him, and she understands that finally the children will live peacefully, so she is really happy. The girl looks at the door of the shelter with a smile and thinks how strange it is. After all, the circumstances were too convergent to be a coincidence, and he thought that the girl was a puppet of the emperor. But even so, she did not immediately accept his offer and fearlessly set her own condition, and was even sincerely happy about the changed shelter. And the man thinks that it is not that he wants to accept an unreasonable condition, but he remembers his wife who claimed that she could solve the problem that was bothering him, but instead she had one condition: I am for him to marry her. At this time, someone turns to Ellie's sister, and the main character asks Betty if it is her. Well, the girl claims that if she leaves, they will never see each other again, and she has never seen the other sisters who left. The girl then tells her not to worry because she will return, and the little girl asks if this is true, and also if she promises that she will return. A little while later, the Duke walks through the garden and says that no matter how hard he tries, well, he can't put a person into eternal sleep, so at least he took the sword in his hands. Damien comes out from behind the tree and claims that he cannot understand why he is taking him and Ellie. And also, what does he plan to do? The Duke claims that when they return to the estate, the boy needs to learn to talk, but the young man only tells him to answer why he is taking him and Ellie. The door then claims that it does not take it away, but only returns it to its original place. And soon the young man will also understand everything because this is what belongs to him from the very beginning. And now his appearance is no different from a wild animal, but if he returns to his original position, then his look will change and become more rigid, and then at least he will be able to protect the people dear to him. The guy then thinks that it is more difficult and scary to trust adults than children, so he does not want to follow him. Well, if this person was the same as the owner, then perhaps Ellie was in danger when he lost consciousness, but in the end, due to his weakness, he still could not protect her. While the headmistress was being led out of the room, Tom Chuck woke up and the main character insisted that they needed to go where he was supposed to be. The young man then asked, what about Ellie, and whether she would also go with him, to which the girl replied that of course, and she will go with him too because she promised to always be there, and now I tell him so that he can protect his dear people, after which he tells the man never to make Ellie work, but he only asks what other work, for a small child, and let the boy not worry about such useless things. But the young man insisted that if a man tortured Ellie, he would not leave it like that, after which he turned around, and the Duke understands that this young man is the same as his father and that even mana stones are not needed here. After all, even if he wagged his tail in front of his wife, he would suddenly change his attitude towards other people, and it would be difficult with such a body to show that he was Clyde's son. A little while later, they are already heading in a carriage, and the main character wakes up. And she also thinks, when she fell asleep, but she also understands that Damien also fell asleep, and now it is clear that he is not sick. Well, then the girl suddenly looks out the window, and when she sees a lot of crows, she thinks that it is so dark there, as if there is a war going on. The young lady realizes that she never imagined such a wasteland, and it seems that the rumors that this place is teeming with demons are true, but still she must not lose heart. At this time, a crow knocks on the carriage window, and the main character wonders if this bird really heard her. And she says it seemed to her as if their eyes met, but the girl also thinks that this cannot be. A little while later, the young lady is already getting out of the carriage, and when she sees the luxurious mansion, she thinks that it is so sparkling. But she also looks up at the sky and realizes that there are also crows there, when they are already in front of the estate door. Then Damien asks what's wrong with the young lady, but she replies that nothing. Meanwhile, the servants greet the Duke. They claim that they received a message about their arrival. The man then says that this is how... But then he remembers something and claims that there is something he forgot to mention in the message, and the butler asks what it is, and the Duke replies that he also brought a child and she will stand behind one and the daughter-in-law there. The man then says that that's how it is. Well, then he understands what the Duke said and asks what he was talking about. Ellie realizes that it obviously makes a lot of sense, but she is also confused. At this time, the man looks at the Duke with a look demanding an explanation of the situation, and the Duke replies that it just happened that way. After which the butler sighs and claims that even the knight did not make any decisions. At this point, the main character clutches her dress and realizes that she is clearly not welcome there. The girl also recalls how one of the women who adopted her insisted that from now on the girl should call her mother. But when she found out that she was the daughter of a thief, she screamed in shock, asking why she hadn't told her. The girl was younger then than she is now. And every time she was excited that she could find a new family, and it was so stupid. Well, the young lady understands that not now, and all she wants is to prepare for the future because she does not need a loving family. At this time, the butler asks if this means that the lady does not have a maid who will help her, and that he should have been warned in advance. The main character then claims that she can cope alone and will also be quiet, and does not need the help of other people, because even in the shelter, she did all the difficult work herself without being noticed. The girl understands that she does not want to be considered an annoying child in need of someone's help, and the Duke at this time turns to her for a favor, and he claims that he will take care of everything. After which he sighs, and one of the maids turns to the knight, after which the knight approaches the Duke. And he claims that his sideline relatives are waiting for him. The man asks what he said. And have rumors really already leaked out? To which the young man replies that perhaps this is the case, and the Duke claims that since there are many eavesdropping ears, it is natural that there are also many chattering mouths, after which he says to tell them that he will rest a little and they will see each other later, and also let France prepare the children's rooms. The butler then agrees and asks them to go that way, and the young lady understands that they are talking about the second line. And these are the people who threaten Damien's future even though Duke Schutz adopted the boy. But only in the distant future will they actively establish a sense of connection, and this means that the guy's trials are not over yet because this is only the beginning. The girl also understands that she cannot see how everything goes wrong for her Damien again. At this time, someone in the hall hits with his hand and screams that it is impossible, and also whether the Duke really found this child and how could he survive. However, another man wonders if the Duke hasn't seen it with his own eyes. Well, his interlocutor replies that there is some kind of trick because, to be honest, mana stones can be replaced. But in any case, he aims to once again take the top spot away from the vassals of the Clyde family and the sideline, and in addition, he brought into the family the child of the deceased Duke of Clyde. Those who ruled the top for 11 years are their Shoots family, but really, it is right to return to the child who has been wandering in all directions his full powers. And the man screams that they must find a way to prevent this one of the people in the room. He claims that his thoughts with the Viscount are similar, but who can defeat the Duke? After all, if he could break his will, he would have done it earlier. The Viscount understands that these are impenetrable old men, and they repeat everything in vain, and that is all they can say. At this time, the Duke enters the room and asks what they are talking about so much, since his ears were hurting even behind the door. The Viscount then says that the Duke has arrived, but the man claims that it looks like it. They wanted to exchange a few words at any cost, so he personally visited him. The men at the table are a little nervous, and the Duke argues that there is no need to waste time on other conversations. And as they had already heard, he found Clyde's son. One of the men then asks to accept his congratulations and asks what his name is. The Duke replies that his name is Damien, and one of the men says that it is a bold and cool name. And the Duke only claims that from now on he will be the head of the Clyde family and understands that they are openly drawing a line between him and Damien. And also, if the boy inherits the name of the family Clyde in a state where he is nothing, then they will bite him to death at any moment. And of course the same can be said about the vassals of the Clyde family, as well as about the relatives of the collateral line. The Duke also claims that, by the way, Damien has a very smart girlfriend, and he thought that she would be useful to the family and took her with him, and he will also give the children an education as his heirs. The Viscount then cries out in shock, asking what the Duke is talking about, and how can children really bear the name Clyde with dignity. The man then just smiles and claims that this means that he will make every effort to support them. The Viscount screams in shock, "What is he talking about?" And the other man says, "The Duke is thick. This is impossible, and why should they have those children?" However, Erhard tells them to stop because he is adopting these children, and when the time comes, he will marry them. And then men are shocked and wonder if he is talking about marriage, and also understand that, no matter how young the age, if the engagement takes place, the person is recognized as a full-fledged member of the family. And besides, if the child chosen by Duke Shoots himself marries Damien, then the top of the Clyde family can no longer be taken away. The Duke at this time understands that, having heard that Clyde's son was found, they must have been planning to either throw him out or push their family's daughter onto him, but he can't leave it like that. After which he asks him to bless them, because those who swore to give their lives for the sake of their family will follow his will. After which the man looks at the Duke in shock, and the Viscount with shaking hands understands that this is impossible. And he knew that the Duke would not leave him so easily, but he did not think that he would choose a partner for marriage. So all that's left is to find another way. The main character enters the room at this time. And seeing how well everything is arranged there, she admires. The girl also thinks, is this really the room? Indeed, chandeliers are like jewels, and she just wants to bite them. The young lady then turns to Damien, but when she turns around, she sees 4 maids there, after which the young lady is a little surprised, and one of them claims that the gentleman left with the butler. And from this day on, they will be there to help Mrs. Ellie. The woman also claims that her name is Rona, and she will do everything possible to make her stay comfortable. She also says that it is nice to meet you, and the main character also bows and greets them, and Rona claims that Mrs. Ellie can speak freely. The young lady then asks if this is really possible and realizes that she has never spoken informally to adults, and it is a bit of a burden when she is called mistress. The woman at this time turns to the young lady and claims that she will soon get used to it. She then turns to the other maids and tells them to say hello to Mistress Ellie as well, after which one of them claims that her name is Ivana. She also says that the other maid, the name is May and the third is Ashel, and if the lady finds it difficult to remember, then let her address them as is convenient. Ellie realizes that learning names is not such a difficult task, after which she claims that she has remembered everyone and also asks to love and favor them. The maids are then surprised and think how kind their mistress is, and the young lady thinks maybe they misunderstood, thinking that she is of noble origin. At this time, the woman claims that since they have finished getting to know each other, let the girl go there because she came from far away and is probably tired, but first they will help her take a bath. A little while later, they are already combing the young lady's hair, and the girl is wondering what to do because she is at a loss. But she doesn't want to show them her undeveloped and ugly body. However, if she hesitates, they will start to despise her. So first she needs to get used to it. One of the maids can't help but giggle, and then Rona turns to her, after which Ashel apologizes and says that the lady is just very nice. She also asks if the lady has a scent, which she often uses. The young lady then asks if they are talking about fragrances and claims that she knows nothing about them, and also just enough warm water because the water in the shelter was too cold. The girl understands that she didn't know the names of the fragrances, so she said everything honestly and thinks if the answer is correct. The maid then turns to the mistress and states that until she finds a scent that she likes, they must try hard to, which the young lady thanks them, and she claims that in order not to disturb them, she will try hard, and the maid then claims that she will say something different, and they will try even harder until the lady does not bother them. After which she smiles, and that same evening the main characters are lying in bed. And she understands that although there were those who helped her, it took longer than when she bathed alone. And thanks to this, she was able to use warm water and scented soap at will. And now the girl understands what lightness and freshness mean, and now she doesn't want to leave, after which the young lady rolls around on the bed, but suddenly he bumps into something, and when he turns around he asks if it is Damien. The girl then asks what happened and why he is so surprised, and the guy answers that nothing, and he was just scared. The young lady then also notices that the young man has cut his hair, after which he touches him and realizes that he seems uncomfortable and embarrassed because of his short hair, and the guy just thinks that Ellie has become prettier, and his heart doesn't stop pounding. The young lady at this time asks if the guy heard the conversation about the butler, and the young man asks what she is talking about. And the girl replies that Rona is talking about them becoming a couple, and the young man is a little surprised. Ellie replies that becoming a couple means loving one person all your life, and the young man wonders what love is. After which the main character thinks how to explain it to him and claims that she doesn't know either, but her mother said so. After all, when you fall in love, your stomach tickles and it seems as if your whole body is burning. And also, the heart beats very hard. The young man after this only gets embarrassed and thinks whether he really loves Ellie. And the main character at this time claims that it is difficult to say correctly. After this, the young man only begins to hiccup. And the main character then asks in shock what happened, to which the guy replies that he suddenly became very scared. Ellie claims that if you close your nose like this, the hiccups stop. The girl also understands that suddenly he was told that they would become a couple, and the young man must be confused. She said she would help him find a family, and she became one herself, and now she feels like she was striving for this by any means necessary. After which the young lady takes him by the cheek and says that it seems he is going to start hiccups again. The young man then asks why, and the girl replies that his face is so red it looks like it's about to explode. The main character understands that a person must know his limits because someday the local people will find out that she is the daughter of a thief. And even if Duke Schutz brought her, she cannot be sure of her future, and she needs to be as modest as possible. At this time, the girl touches his cheek and asks if the guy has a fever, and he claims that he is just hot. And the main character then asks if she should move back, because the bed is wide. But the young man then replies that he doesn't want to, and the girl claims that he did say that he was hot. But the guy says that nevertheless she should not move away, and the young lady is then interested. Is Damien really afraid of nightmares like last time, to which the young man only rejoices? And he answers that yes, he is afraid, because this is an unfamiliar place. The young lady understands that this is different from the fact that in the story he quickly got used to the Duke's estate, after which she says that she understood, and at this time the young man covers himself with a blanket. And the main character, moving closer to him, asks if he will be able to fall asleep, even if it is hot, and it will be less scary that way. The young man then hugs her back and replies that yes, and the main character understands. That he became even nicer, and now she, looking at the guy, tells him to close his eyes, and also wishes him good night. The young lady understands that a lot has happened today, and although he still had difficult days in the future, he will be several times happier than the pain he experienced, so today and tomorrow night there will be no more nightmares. The girl also wishes for the Milky Way to fill his dreams. At this time, the Viscount turns to the servant and asks if he has found out anything. He replies that yes, and the girl that the Duke brought is a commoner, and they say that her mother, who fell into eternal sleep, is a very famous thief, and the gentleman must have heard of her too, because this is the story of the woman who stole His Majesty's treasures. The young man then understands that the Duke has brought a boy who had been wandering God knows where, and the daughter of a thief, and this is indeed a good combination, after which he throws a bag of coins and says that the man is a good man, and also this is excellent information. And he gets information quickly, so he always admires him. The guy says that the gentleman is exaggerating, after which he picks up the bag of money and states that he is leaving. Then the Viscount understands that he needs to report this to His Majesty. Well, although it cannot be that the Duke did not know about this, and besides, if the Emperor finds out this truth, then the property of the Duke and Clyde could be confiscated by the imperial family. Therefore, the man thinks about what to do, but then a brilliant idea comes to his mind, and he understands that in this way, he will win in his favor and get rid of this girl. The main character yawns at this time, and one of the maids asks if the mistress is very tired. The girl answers that she is a little, and the woman asks her to be patient a little because today is the day to introduce her to the elders and vassals. After this, the young lady is dressed in a dress and told that everything is ready. The girl looked at herself in the mirror and realized that she did not know that she was so pretty when dressed up. And the maid turns to the lady and claims that as soon as Mr. Demian finishes preparing, he will also come, so she asks if the girl will wait for him in the bedroom, to which the young lady agrees and then sits on the bed. Well, then she thinks that it is very tiring. When the maids are looking after her at this time, they claim that Mrs. Ellie's skin is so white that it seems like powdered sugar will fall out if you touch it. The young lady then wonders when Damian will come. Well, then someone knocks at the door. And the maid asks what happened, and one of the maids replies that Viscount Corbino wants to say hello to Ellie. The woman then asks if she is talking about Viscount Corbino, and the young lady realizes that it seems he wants to know who she is before the official meeting. The women at this time turn to him and claim that Mrs. Ellie is not yet fully ready. But the man ignores her and asks if this is really true because in his opinion she looks perfect, after which he asks the lady if he was rude, and the young lady understands that this is a man who did not want to wait his turn. After which she answers the Viscount that no, and she has almost finished her preparations. The man then asks like this and claims that he surprisingly looked in on time. He also claims that he did not come empty-handed, but in order to meet her and brought a rare thing. After all, it is a mineral called Blue Hope, and a mana stone that can only be obtained on their land. The man understands that if this lady is the daughter of a thief, then she can be caught. It is on the theft that he claims that if the girl has Blue Hope, she will be able to use magic, and for her it is very important, after which the man also turns to one of the maids and tells her to get out of there. After all, he needs to talk to the lady alone. Rona is a little surprised by this, and the Viscount is just wondering if she really thinks he will do something absurd. The woman falls silent after this, and when the main character nods, she leaves. The young lady looks at this stone and realizes that it is truly beautiful, and the color is the same as Damian's eyes. Well, the man just tells the girl to stop staring because this is not something she can get. The young lady then gets a little angry and asks what he is talking about. The man claims that he is generous, so he will allow her to look at him as much as she wants, and as soon as she has looked around, let her send him back through his maid. The main character then tells him to listen. The man just turns around and says that he will take his leave and they will see each other later. The young lady is then left with this crystal and wonders if this is some kind of one-sided game. And the maid claims that even though the man said so, he himself chose this mana stone for the lady's theme. After which he asks us how she will look at him again. The maid at this time turns to Mrs. Ellie, and also claims that they need to go because Mr. Damian has already arrived. The young lady then asks if the guy has arrived too, and he claims that then she needs to go faster. The maid is a little surprised by this, and she understands that this is not right, because if the girl leaves now, her mission will fail. But the Viscount told her to put the Mana Stone in the young lady's pocket at the right moment and leave. And the girl is also uneducated, so she definitely won't notice. The maid at this time asks the young lady if the Viscount did anything strange, and she replies that everything is fine. Another maid at this time picks up a stone and understands that, if not now, she would never be able to slip a stone to the young lady, so now she turns to the mistress, and he claims that then she will also go along with it, after which the main character agrees. And the maid understands that she needs to act right now, after which she pretends that her leg has twisted, and he begins to fall. And while he is falling, he puts this crystal into the young lady's pocket. And he thinks that this is great because she put it down, after which the woman falls down completely. And Rona in shock asks if the lady is okay and if she has hurt herself. The girl replies that as far as she can see, she is okay. Rona then states that she will definitely scold the maid for this, and May is standing outside, so she will escort the young lady. However, the main character turns to the maid who fell and says that something else needs to be done before that. She also approaches the maid and says that she fell, and that is probably why her clothes are dirty. However, the woman then turns to the lady, a little surprised, and says that she is fine, after which the main character says that, then thank God, and then she goes. After which the two maids are silent, watching as the mistress leaves. A little while later, the young lady introduces herself and states that her name is Ellie. The men then start whispering and claim that the girl doesn't even have a last name, so the Duke's bride is a commoner, and they ask what the hell is going on. Ellie realizes that their reaction is softer than she thought, and the young man at this time wants to stand up for Ellie. However, the Duke stops him and whispers that the guy has not forgotten what he told him last time. After all, until he returns to his previous position, let him not fuss and behave quietly. The young man gets a little angry after this, and the main character asks if he is in a bad mood, to which they answer that nothing of the sort. Then someone turns to the Duke, and it turns out to be the Viscount. He apologizes and asks if he could look at something. The Duke claims that it seems to be something urgent, since it hasn't even been brought up for discussion, and the Viscount claims that it is, and that it is the blue hope stone he spoke of earlier. The man also claims that it was finished yesterday, so he hoped the Duke would look at it. And the man then says okay and let them bring it. The sentry then turns to the maid, and he tells her to bring this stone, but the woman turns to the Viscount and claims that she wants to say something. After which she whispers something in his ear, and the man, shocked, asks what she is saying. The Duke then asks what happened, and the man replies that they say that the stone of blue hope has disappeared. The whole hall immediately starts whispering and asking if the blue hope has disappeared, and they were also watching the stone. The maid replies that it was she who was watching the stone, and the man then asks how she was watching it at all, and also who he was with last time. The maid then shakes a little and claims that it is true. She showed the blue hope to that lady not long ago, but she couldn't get it back. Lycan asks if she's talking about that time when they came to greet the people, and she says that yes, the Viscount calmly let her admire it. The man then asks the Duke for forgiveness for telling him this, and for him hearing something. After all, probably everyone knows the story of the thief who broke into the castle of Count Lathione. He also claims that that young lady, or rather that girl's mother, is the famous thief. The men then scream, what did he tell them? Did the thief's daughter really get into them? That's why they scream at the Duke that after what they heard, they can't leave it like that, and the Duke understands that when they suddenly started talking about Blue Hope, he thought it was empty talk. And the Viscount at this time claims that this is why, if he doesn't mind, he would like to search this girl. The young lady is then a little surprised and asks what he is talking about, but the Viscount only bows and asks him to let him examine her, and the main character then claims that her mother was a thief and that it is true. Well, she didn't touch anything, after which the man offers to check it out. Damien then looks at the young lady and worries a little about her, and the main character then agrees, but claims that if he doesn't find anything on her, he will apologize. The Viscount then says how impudent this is and asserts that he will accept her conditions, and also asks for the Duke's permission. Erhard argues that if he has already received the young lady's permission, then is his permission needed at all? After which the maid approaches the young lady and asks her to excuse her, but when she looks in your pocket, he finds nothing and is a little surprised, after which he claims that there is nothing. The Viscount replies that this is true and there is nothing there, but then in shock he realizes what the maid said, and he screams, "What kind of nonsense is this?" and also whether she searched well. The woman answers that she did, after which the man jumps toward the young lady and pushes the maid away, screaming for her to move away, because he will look for her himself. However, when he really doesn't find anything, he asks in shock if there really is nothing there. Someone whispers if that girl really didn't steal it, but Viscount Corbino was very confident in her. The man only clenches his fists after that, and he starts shaking the girl and also screams where she hid it and let the young lady speak faster. Damien then screams Ellie's name in shock, but then someone grabs the Viscount's hand, and it turns out to be the Duke. He also says that the man is raging because even with his eyes open, he cannot find it. The main character then realizes that she didn't think that Duke Schutz would help, but the man at that time asserts that, in his opinion, the Viscount looks more like the one who committed the mischief, and he asks how the guy thinks, and is he really wrong? The Viscount then says that everything is not so and he is simply worried about the Duke because the situation is obvious, and there is no other way out except to doubt, after which the man claims that it makes sense, and then he... Following the situation, the Duke must suspect the Viscount and turns to Ante, and then he agrees, after which he approaches the Viscount and asks for forgiveness, and the man replies that it is fine, and let him check how clean he is, after which the servant checks the man, but then he finds this stone and turns to the Duke, showing it. Bacon then looks at it in shock, and he thinks why he was there and also screams in shock, turning to the Duke. And he claims that he knows nothing about it and also asks to believe him because he is really innocent. The main character understands that it is good that Blue Hope is such a light stone, and first, the clever daughter of the thief uncovered the maid's plan, feeling the weight in her pocket. After which, when she was being searched, the girl carefully pulled out the Blue Hope that had been placed in the maid's pocket. After which she put the stone she had pulled out into the Viscount's pocket and understood that she could take advantage of the moment when he was distracted. And the station where you can get off is called Smart Eli. The girl understands that the maid and the bacon acted as she wanted. It's a shame it's cold in the north, so the thick clothes fit well into the plan, and thanks to this, the two didn't notice the Blue Hope. The Duke then turns to the Viscount, who only gets nervous. The man then claims that regardless of that, who he is, the payment for the lie must be made, after which he turns to Ante tells him to bring out the Viscount and the maid too. The man then screams in shock, so that the Duke would forgive him once because he made a mistake, but then he would be taken out. The young lady then thinks that such a mistake would not be made by a person, but it is difficult to see his end. However, if he had not taken action, he would not have been able to protect them. At this time, someone turns to Ellie, and he asks what condition she recently set for them, to which the girl replies that they should apologize to her, and the other aristocrats hearing this are a little surprised. At this time the Duke turns to them and asks if they heard everything and that they do have ears. The men then immediately fall to their knees and ask for forgiveness and also for mercy, because they acted disrespectfully towards her. The Duke argues that it would be better to decide their fate right now, but Ante is not here now, so they will talk after the meeting, to which they cry out in gratitude for his kindness. The man also says that those who did not agree should sit down more comfortably, to which the other men who did not suspect the young lady thank him and sit down. The Duke then turns to the young lady and Damien and tells them to sit down as well, after which he himself sits down at the table and says that now they can get down to business again because, as he said earlier, he plans to marry these two children. But then who raises his hand and tells the Duke that nobles are forbidden to marry commoners, but the man replies that he knows, and that is why he called them all, to find a family to adopt. Ellie. The girl then looks at the Duke in shock, and men also think whether he is talking about adoption. The young lady at this time only smiles. The Duke asks which family is better, but the young lady wonders how nobles will adopt the daughter of a thief. He also claims that if no one steps forward, then things will have to be done differently, after which he turns to Ellie and tells her to choose because she will bear the name of that family, so it is up to her to choose. The young lady is thinking about this at this time, but remembers how someone asked if they really need to make this girl their daughter's servant. Someone also claimed that it was a disgrace to their family, and what could they talk about with a child who was not even at their level? The young lady's brothers and sisters told their father that no matter how much he wanted to accept her, they were ashamed to have anything to do with someone of her background, after which the young lady found herself on the street again and again. The girl also remembers. As someone addressed her and the little girl asked if it was really her mother, the woman then said that although it was hard for her, but let the girl be patient a little longer, and this is because she is her child who will be loved wherever she goes. And didn't she say about the young lady with what love she was born? The girl understands that at first she resented her mother for forcing her to live an unfair life, but the only person who loved her was her mother, and the girl understands that in any case, these people will not accept her as a real adopted daughter. So she will just be grateful to them at least for this, and thinks that she should stay in the Schutz family. At this time, a maid enters the room and apologizes to the Duke, claiming that she has an urgent message for the defense of Amantha. The man then asks what it is. And the maid replies that Baroness Amantha is suddenly here, but the maid doesn't have time to finish speaking, as the man is already bowing and asking the Duke to forgive him because he needs to leave, after which he leaves, and someone claims that it looks like the Baroness's condition has worsened again. So it must be hard for the Baron, but he can't take his eyes off her because suddenly something will happen. The main character at this time understands that she has already heard this name somewhere. Well, then someone asks what will happen if a new mine is discovered, because of the Baroness, he won't even be able to examine it properly, and the girl understands that she remembered. After all, Baron Amantha was only a minor nobleman who owned a small mine. But later Damien would win the war while holding a sword made from the minerals found in that mine. And what's more, in the north, teeming with monsters' weapons are money in this case. The girl now turns to the Duke and also claims that she wants to go to Baron Amantha. The man then says that if this is her will, he will not dissuade the girl, but will have to thoroughly convince Baron Amantha. He also whispers to the young lady that such a number will not work on the Baron, and the little girl is a little surprised. After which the man even whispers that this does not mean that even if her skills worked against the stupid Corbino, it does not mean that they will work on Baron Amantha. The little girl then understands that he knew that she had given the Viscount a blue hope, but she does not understand why he simply let her get away with it. And also, was it because she helped him meet the guy and also exposed the Viscount's deception, which benefited him? The man at this time asks if she can understand about the young lady, that then the Duke is the only person in the world who recognizes her value, after which the young lady thinks that she can and claims that she will show her importance. A little while later, she is already walking down the corridor with the boy and asks him about the guy, and he replies that it is very beautiful there. The young lady understands that, as Ivana said, there are many beautiful flowers, and this place is not quite in keeping with the duchy, but she is glad that Damien likes it. After which she thinks that the vassals have all been silent since that day, and it seems that they are very afraid of the Duke. At this time, the young man notices something flying, and the young lady thinks how cute he is because it looks like he is seeing a dandelion seed for the first time. The guy at this time grabs him and says that he caught him, and then turns to Ellie, and he tells her to go there. The young lady then asks if there is anything there, and the guy turns to her and claims that these flowers are the same color as her hair. The main character then says that it is true, and they are the same color as her hair, after which she claims that then she needs to look for Damien's color. And she also says that she found and points to the blue flowers. The young man is interested. Are they his color? And the girl answers that yes, and asks if they are beautiful because they are the same color as his eyes. The young man smiles after this, and the main character understands that now he can smile brightly. Then he turns to the young man and asks if he heard the same thing, that she will soon be adopted. The guy then asks if it's true and if she'll go, and the girl replies that she will, and she is going to become the adopted daughter of Baron Amantha. The guy then asks if he will never see Ellie again, and the girl replies that no, and she will simply take her name, and so they will be together, and the young man asks if this is true, and the girl replies that of course, because she promised. Ellie realizes that he is already making eyes at her, after which she asks if Damien has already decided something for himself. After all, he went somewhere in the morning, and the guy replies that he was taught fencing because tomorrow he will start training seriously, and the girl claims that then today is the only day when they can play calmly, after which she also suggests playing tag and claims that this game is when one drives and catches the other. The young man already imagines how the girl will hug him and says that he wants to play, and the main character then says that great, and then let the guy run away first because she will catch him. A little while later, they are all exhausted from the fun, and the girl says that it is hard for her, and also suggests that they go back because Ivan will be worried, to which the young man agrees and says that he is tired. Ellie also claims that the tag is over, so she can let go of her hands, to which the young man agrees. Well then, the main character turns around and notices something and also thinks, is this really the vassal of Viscount Corbino? When she and Damien are alone, the girl also addresses the guy and also screams for him to be careful. But when the young lady opens her eyes, she sees that no one is attacking them, and when she looks in that direction, he only sees a woman sitting on the ground frozen solid. She asks where she is and claims that it is very cold there. And the young lady thinks, is this really not a vassal then? Who is it? After which she turns to her grandmother and asks if she is okay. And also, can she stand up? The girl realizes that this woman's clothes are luxurious, and it doesn't look like she's a servant in the duchy. She also suggests going around to the greenhouse first, but when he touches her hand, she is a little surprised. After all, a woman's body is cold as ice, and if things are left like this, trouble will happen. But if you force her to go in this state, she will probably get scared, so you need to treat her as kindly and brightly as possible so that she doesn't get scared. After which the girl turns to her grandmother and claims that her name is Ellie, and until now she had been walking with her friend Damien, after which she asks who the grandmother is. Well, the woman then asks if she is a grandmother, to which the young lady is a little surprised. And she thinks can't she remember, and maybe this is an occlusion disease. After all, it's like the dementia of her past life. Occlusion is a disease in which memories gradually disappear, and in addition, they say that if you make a sick person anxious, then his condition will worsen. The young lady also heard that it was an incurable disease for which there was no cure. After which, she adjusts her scarf and tells her grandmother that her hands are very cold. And there are a lot of beautiful flowers blooming there, so she offers to go with her and play, and claims that it is very warm there. The woman then asks if there is a warm place nearby, to which the little girl replies that there is, and asks Damien if this is true, to which the boy also nods. After which, the little girl turns to the guy and claims that the woman should not fall again, so he offers to support her from both sides. After this, the woman smiles, and a little while later they enter the greenhouse. The woman says that it is indeed very warm there, and the young lady turns to her grandmother and asks, why was she in such a cold place and had she lost her way? The woman replies that she does not know, and she also doesn't know why she was in such a place, after which the young lady says, that happens, and she also forgets a lot. She also turns to her grandmother and asks what her name is, but the woman is interested in whether the baby wants to know her name, to which the girl agrees and claims that she felt like she didn't like the way she called her grandma. The woman then thinks about what the baby is saying and also tries to remember her name. But then someone shouts Vera's name, and the main character thinks that it is a slightly familiar voice. At this time, the man comes closer and asks if she knows how long he has been looking for her, and also what she is doing there. The woman then asks if it is Marvin, and the man only tells the woman to just look at herself. The main character then sees the Baron, who tells her to go there because it is dangerous there. Vieira then turns to Marvin and wants to say something, and the young lady thinks, are these two really a married couple? And then this grandmother is Baroness Amantha. The man at this time claims that he told her to be with the maid and let her follow him because they need to go faster. The woman then apologizes, and the Baron looks angrily at the young lady and claims that he does not know what they were planning, but let them not use his wife to cowardly harm her. The main character then asks him what he is talking about, and wonders if he mistakenly decided that she got close to the Baroness on purpose. At this time, Damien turns to the man and suggests that he not say nasty things to Ellie. The Baron then turns to the young Duke and claims that he seems to be mistaken since he did not mean anything like that. But the boy replies that he is not mistaken, and no good person would say something like that to Ellie. The young lady then turns to the guy a little shocked, and he understands that it cannot be because he should not be wary of the Baron, because even though now he is the Baron of Mines in the past, he was an outstanding knight. Although he is old and rarely holds a sword in his hands, this man with many years of experience and skill will become a mentor for Damien in the future. Well, she still thinks what kind of attitude this is towards a person. The young lady then turns to the guy and says that she is fine, so he should stop. The Baron only laughs and says that the girl's skills are incredible. So it seems he understood the reason why the Duke brought the young lady Vieira, then turns to her husband. And he just claims that it won't work on him, so let the girl not approach his wife because he doesn't plan to adopt her. After which they leave, and the main character thinks that she is lost and assumed that the man would hate her, but not to that extent. However, the young lady understands that everything is fine since the Baron's misunderstanding of this situation was natural, and even Damien was branded. Now the young lady turns to the guy and says that it is not good to warn anyone. And the young man then wonders why, because Ellie herself said last time that he should not be offended, but fight back when he is angry, and the young lady claims that she said so, but it related to her affairs. And the guy then claims that that person just said something bad to Ellie and it makes him angry, so that's why he did it, after which the young man asks if he really made a mistake, and the main character looking at him understands that Damien is a child who has never known the feelings of anger and sadness. And he opened his heart to her, however he is still a child who does not understand his feelings. And such a child got angry and also resisted, so the girl thinks whether she should tell him now that this is not possible. After which the young lady finally puts her hands on the guy's shoulders and answers no. And he is also a good guy. The girl also thinks that this is true because the guy began to express his feelings and became a step better. After this, the young man just smiles and says yes, and the girl understands that she shouldn't suppress his feelings, and he is not yet mature in communicating with others because he is a kind and gentle child. And if you instruct him, he will learn all the emotions in the blink of an eye. But just in case now, she turns to the guy and says that if he gets so angry in the future that he wants to jump out, then if she says no, he should know how to stop the young man, then asks if even if she is in danger. And the main character replies that she will do so as not to be in dangerous situations, and even if they are, she will get out, to which the boy replies that he understands. And the girl strokes him and also thinks what an innocent boy he is. At this time, someone turns to the master and mistress, and when the young lady turns around, she sees that it is Ivana, and also wonders whether the Baron has already informed her of his refusal to adopt her. The woman at this time asks if they have encountered the case with Baron Amantha. The girl replies that they have recently met and they were together with the Baroness. The maid at this time only says that the master and mistress should avoid her the next time they encounter the Baroness, and the little girl asks why, and the maid replies that the Baroness suffers from an illness in which her memory is constantly disappearing, and when she loses her memory, she becomes a child, so it is unknown what she can do. The main character then asks why she has health problems, and the woman answers that the Baron and Baroness have a son. This is Jareth. After the Baroness gave birth to Mr. Jareth, she began to have health problems. The main character then asks if there is a way to fix this, and the maid replies that she doesn't know and she doesn't know either. But in any case, from now on, when they see the Baroness, let them first inform the servants, after which she asks if they understand, but the young lady replies that she does not know yet, after which he thinks and realizes that the Baroness's condition did not look so bad that she could be called terminally ill. After all, as soon as she saw the Baron, she even shouted his name. And although the occlusion is difficult to control, is the only solution really to leave her alone. The Baron at this time claims that it was dangerous, so he assigned many servants to her, but did not think that she would secretly disappear. The woman then turns to her husband, but he claims that he knows that at that moment she was not herself. After which he claims that, so he doesn't even know what else to do. The man understands that she was very happy when the child was born. That's why I was really looking forward to him being born. But after giving birth, Vera's health deteriorated sharply, and it was a disease that even imperial medicine could not cure. Over time, the incidents became more frequent, and eventually that night, unable to bear it, he screamed. Vieira was found sleeping near a rock near the castle. Why did that woman keep losing her memory? Now she claims that she will be more careful in the future, and the man understands that maybe she wanted to forget everything. And after all, initially he was the one who wanted the child, so maybe he was the one who tied Vieira, who loved freedom, hand and foot. The woman at this time turns to her husband and then clutches her dress, and she claims that today she survived thanks to that child. The man asks what she is talking about, and the woman replies that he saw it too. That golden-haired girl, after all, she warmed her hand and wrapped a scarf around it. And besides, she brought her to a warm greenhouse, and she really is a kind girl like an angel, because if it weren't for her, she would still be shaking from the cold outside. The man then looks at his wife and is shocked and wonders if she is really smiling, but how long ago that was. At this time, the woman turns to Marvin and suggests that he go see the children tomorrow and apologize together. After all, she is grateful to that girl and asks if she can do it. The man then looks at his wife, and he understands that the behavior of that child may just be a game because she needs them, but when he sees his wife smile, he thinks why his soul is so heavy. He also recalls telling the girl that it wouldn't work on him and that she shouldn't get close to his wife since he wasn't going to adopt her. And the main character at this time asks in shock how this can be. And after all, Damien. Such good skin. The girl also asks how the skin can be so soft and also wonders if Damien knows what cotton candy is. The young man answers that he doesn't, and the girl says that if there is a chance, then she'll make cotton candy and it'll be as soft and fluffy as his cheeks. The guy then claims that Ellie has better cheeks than him, and the young lady replies that no, and his are softer, after which he offers to touch her cheeks. Well, the young man asks how he can, but the main character at that very moment puts his hand on her cheek, to which the young man only becomes embarrassed, and the main character asks how he feels and if he is okay. However, when the young man does not answer, the main character only asks what is wrong with him. And he also thinks that maybe everything is so bad that he can't say Lenachka also thinks that it is naturally bad because she couldn't eat or take care of herself. At this time, the maid turns to the mistress and asks for forgiveness for the intrusion, but claims that the Baron and Baroness Amantha have come to see them. The young lady wonders if they have come to them, but they only come in and bow. The girl is then a little surprised, and the Baron affirms that he didn't know anything and misunderstood Mrs. Ellie, and also came to apologize for it, and he really feels sorry. The girl understands that she thought he came to interrogate her, so she thinks how to react in this situation. The young lady then realizes that the Baron realized the benefits of the ore too late, and now she knows the reason. After all, he was worried about the Baroness and could not normally do other things, so the girl thinks that if only an environment could be created in which the Baron could concentrate on his work, Damien's sword can be made earlier than expected, after which she asks if she can ask him for a small favor. As an apology, the Baron replies that of course, after which he asks what it is. The young lady replies that she has heard that patients are often confused by people, and they also say that the higher the voice, the more frightened they become. Therefore, she says with a smile on her face, so that he doesn't get angry with his wife, the girl also turns to Madame and asks her to take a walk with her. The man asks if this is really all the girl wants, and the young lady replies that yes, and she wants to go for walks with the lady often. Ellie claims that she hasn't been there long, so her only friend is Damien, and he will be busy teaching fencing, so it would be good if Madame became her friend. The guy at this time claims that if so then he is not busy at all, but he is the main character, and not just telling him to be quiet, after which she claims that she will not bother Madame, so she asks if it is possible to walk together at least 3 times a week. The woman says that it seems that she will become a burden for the girl. And the little girl replies that not at all, and she will be very happy if it suits her. And they also say that they can go to the greenhouse together again. After all, she wants to show her a lot of flowers. The woman then looks at the young lady with a little surprise. But then he leans over to her and claims that it is an honor for her, and she hopes that they will get along well. After which, they are already sitting at the table, and the main character tells the story of how she came to the Duke's estate. The woman then says that this is how difficult the decision to come north is. The little girl understands that she is not happy, that adults address her in a respectful tone, after which she claims that the raven or unexpected thing and frighten her, but compared to the shelter, there is simply paradise. The girl also understands that this is 1,000 times better than being beaten, and soon she will receive capital, so everything is fine. The woman then says that it was hard for the little one, after which she takes her hand in hers and also asks if it was very hard for her. The little girl gets a little embarrassed after this and then says that, not really, because all the children at the orphanage are very kind. Of course, there were also unkind people, and especially the teachers were terrible. But the Duke crushed them all, or rather simply resolved everything. The woman then smiles and says that this is an amazing thing and that Duke Schutz is not one of those who likes to interfere in other people's affairs. However, the girl claims that he saved Damien from the orphanage, and the woman claims that it is probably because of remorse, and she is not sure that she can tell the girl about it. But if not her, then who will tell her about this, after which she claims that she will tell about the time when her memory was not damaged. About 15 years ago, the Empire started a great war, and it happened because of an oracle transmitted from the Great Temple that a non-existent force would restore the Empire. The non-existent force meant the strange life force of the World Tree, and people having studied this force realized that magic appears in nature. The closer life forms were to the World Tree, the stronger mana they were born with. As proof of mana, those living near the World Tree used unique magic. However, the World Tree suddenly dried up, and despite the efforts of the clans, it never bloomed again. Then rumors began to circulate around the world that despite the fact that they saved the World Tree, they hid the truth only to monopolize power, so the imperial family and the temple started a war to protect the empire. The previous Duke of Clyde and the Duke of Shoots also went to war, and in the process, they became close friends after the empire won and was able to control the minority. They went to meet the Duke with joyful emotions, but he did not come alone. After all, he came back with the deceased Uriah. The main character then listens to all this and thinks whether the woman is talking about Uriah. The story about the Duchess wasn't even mentioned in the book. The woman claims that Uriah was a member of a minority clan, and the main character then thinks, could it be that a girl from the clan A became a duchess? The woman at this time claims that people call the Dukes of Shoots those who inherit the devil's blood. People with the last name Schutz generation of Mr. give from madness, and she heard that this curse passed down from ancient times makes a person insane. That's why the Schutz estate is called the Cursed Land. And the main character understands that in the novel everything was focused on Damien, so she hears it for the first time. And the woman claims that the reason the Duke participated in the war was probably to resolve this madness, but after the arrival of Lady Uriah, the Duke's madness disappeared. The young lady then asks how this is, and the woman replies that she doesn't know, and the people of the minority clan had different magic, so they can just assume that it was their power. But anyway, after this, the Duke and Uriah got married, and this caused a stir. But nevertheless, these two were very passionately in love, and then the main character understands that this is what it is. And if he was the only one who got rid of the madness that was passed down from generation to generation, he had no choice but to bring someone from the minority clan. But the woman claims that in order to release the power of the minority clan, a price had to be paid. 3 years ago, when the agency went to war due to the rebellion of the allied countries, Uriah used magic alone to get rid of the Duke's curse. In the end, but the woman suddenly falls silent and claims that after that the Duke broke off all ties, but he continued to send letters. 2 years later, Duke Clyde sent a letter announcing that he had a son. At this time, Duke Schutz opened the locked gates of the castle for the first time. The main character then realizes that there was an accident with the Clyde family that day, and it seems she knows why the Duke feels remorse in front of Damien, and the loss of his wife and close friend. He thinks it's all his fault, and it seems the girl understands his feelings to some extent. After all, she also had the experience of losing someone dear to her. The woman at this time turns to Mrs. Ellie, and he asks if she is okay, and also says that she shouldn't have told him. The young lady then replies that she is not, and that she simply feels very sorry for the Duke. The woman then strokes the girl's head and says that it is true. However, when she is with Mrs. Ellie, she suddenly remembers her son. The main character then asks if she has a son, and the woman replies that yes, but he cannot become her friend because he is quite an adult and busy working in the mine. The young lady then turns to Madam and then asks, can she take a look at the mine? And a little while later, the young lady is already there. The man is working on one of the swords at this time and understands that he must achieve results as quickly as possible, and also thinks how to develop it better. It turns out to be Baron Jareth Amantha. The guy understands that at this rate he will not be able to please his sick mother. Not getting your father's recognition, and he has to help your father so that he doesn't get disappointed in him. At this point, the man turns to his son and asks how many times he has already sighed heavily. The young man then asks what brings the Baron there, and the man asks if he needs a reason to come to his own mine. The young man remains silent after this, and his father turns to him and asks if the boy has found out anything. The young man then apologizes but replies that he doesn't, after which he looks completely dejected. And then the man turns to his son and says that there is no need to rush, even if he does it slowly. However, the guy replies that no, and he will do everything possible not to bother the Baron, so let him not worry so much. The man is surprised after this, but still says okay, and then turns around, and she tells him to do everything to the best of his ability. But even then, he crashes into the young lady, and she says that it hurts. The man then asks if it is Mrs. Ellie. Well, he still asks why she is there with Vera. The main character at this time only greets the Baron, and the woman replies that she knows that he is unhappy, but she wanted to come there with Mrs. Ellie. The man then sighs and says that she knows how many dangers there are, but she came anyway. And the main character at this time is already near their son and asks what this is. The blue thing behind his back, and also whether this is a weapon. The girl also asks if she can touch this sword, after which she turns to the guy with shining eyes and asks if she can. The guy realizes that this girl is the future Duchess of Clyde, who was brought by the Duke, and she is much smaller than he thought, after which he claims that the sword is dangerous, so it is impossible. The young lady then gets upset and asks well how, and also apologizes for what only bothered him. Well, the guy at this time only once again claims that the sword is dangerous, and the young lady only gets even more upset. And the young man claims that instead of him, he will show her something else, and the little girl asks if this is true. The Baron then wants to say something, but his wife stops him and only shakes her head. At this time, the guy hands the little girl a monocle that uses a mana stone, after which he puts it on himself and claims that it can be done like this by placing it on the eye. However, when the young lady puts it on, she claims that she feels dizzy, and the man tells her to close her eye on one side, after which the young lady does just that, and the man says that it will be right. Vieira, looking at this, is only surprised and says that she would be interested in having a granddaughter. She would feel the same way. The main character is leading more stones at this time. And she comes up to them and asks what it is, and the guy says that she can't touch it. And the little girl asks why, and he answers that it is a special mineral that they discovered this time. Under the influence of temperature, it immediately hardens, and once stuck, it will never fall off, and in addition, it will begin to release a strange substance. The girl then steps away and says that it is definitely a monster. Some guy asks if she has ever seen monsters. The little girl replies that it is not her, but Damien, and before arriving at the duchy, he met a monster, and also said that he was very scared, and if he ever caught her, he would never let her go. At this time, the guy is at fencing training, and his teacher asks what is wrong with him, to which the young man replies that he has a feeling that Ellie called him. The Baron's son smiles at this time and says that the young lady's words are true, and if he catches her one day, he will definitely never let her go. But then the man is a little surprised and realizes that he saw this in childhood when he was a knight. The young man then saw the sparkling ore and understood that there were minerals in such a place. But this is such a rarity, and he thought that he would take it away from the defense, but at that very moment, someone turned to him, and he said that the knight should not touch and rebuke this unreasonable rare kind of monster. The Baron then asked if it was a monster, and if they said it was a monster, and the woman replied that he was making himself shine on the outside, like a precious stone, but once they touch it, they can never tear themselves away. And despite the fact that it looks beautiful on the outside, it is a monster that bites into human flesh. And now the young man and the Baron remember this and then talk about something. The main character then smiles, and he understands that she knew that the discovered mine was the lair of a monster, and now using this monster, they will create a weapon. Now, when you come into contact with it, you won't feel any toxicity, but if you hold it for too long, then the poison will seep into the body and it will become a deadly weapon. So the girl thinks that they are poorer and decide to attack first. But they still thought about making a weapon out of a monster, and it looks very much like the vassals of Schutz. However, 3 years ahead of schedule, at this time someone turns to Mrs. Ellie and offers to return now. Well, the young lady says that she couldn't even have a normal conversation with the guy, and the woman answers that this is enough, and Mrs. Ellie has done a great job for her son and husband, as well as for her. The young lady then only looks at the woman, and she insists that they need to return before nightfall because the Duke will be worried. To which the young lady agrees, and when she turns around, she sees the two discussing something with smiles on their faces. At this time, the Duke is sitting in his office and writing something, and someone reports to him that for this reason Mrs. Ellie spent time with Baroness Amantha. The man then claims that she became close, not to the Baron but to his wife, and that she is a rather smart child because now the Baron can concentrate on his primary work. At this time, the butler turns to the Duke and says that this is what he sent, and the man looks at it. He asks if this is really an arrow, to which he replies that yes, and it was made from a recently discovered material. The Duke then touches the arrow, but when it starts to stick to his finger, he asks what it is. And the butler replies that in fact the mineral discovered by the Baron was a monster, and he is an incredible person since he uses monsters to make weapons. The Duke then says that just like he thought he was completely lost because of his wife, and also did not expect that he would make such a good thing. However, it is better to make swords out of this than arrows. The butlers claim that this is only the beginning, and they will develop this matter step by step. After which, he also claims that he now understands why he brought Mrs. Ellie. Duke then asks why, and the man replies that this discovery was made thanks to Mrs. Ellie. The man then asks if it was really thanks to this child, and the butler replies that yes, and perhaps she said it out of surprise, but thanks to this they were able to understand that this is a monster, and she is smart in her own way. The Duke thinks for a moment after this and realizes that he brought Ellie because of her. She might have some relation to the Emperor, and despite her young age, she has an invincible spirit and excellent strategy. Thus, it is highly likely that the imperial family took steps to use the child to tame Damien and force him to obey the imperial family. And what's more, Clyde's immersion into eternal sleep was not a simple accident, and he thought that he would benefit from it. From the disclosure of the truth, but even if the information said by the child was an accident, he definitely thought so. Well, now he thinks that if she has some relation to the Emperor, then why could such an assumption cloud his mind? At this time, the butler hears someone enter the room and immediately pulls a dagger out of his jacket. And they are also preparing for an attack, but then he is a little surprised because he sees that it is Mrs. Ellie. The young lady merely greets him, and the man hides the dagger and asks for what reason she came there. The girl then claims that she wanted to say hello to the Duke, and the man then says that this is how it is. The young lady at this time thinks that she was just trying to quietly eavesdrop to find out if the developments were going well, and she needs to be more careful because she almost got killed. At this time, the Duke asks what she forgot there. The little girl claims that she wanted to give him something, after which he holds one bag in his hands and claims that it is a cure for headaches. After all, she heard from Rona that the Duke sometimes gets headaches, so she gives this to him. The butler says that the girl is so caring and asks where she got this from, and the little girl replies that she accidentally remembers how she recently said that she had a headache. Well, then the girl decides to change the subject and asks what the butler is hiding behind his back. The man then asks what she is talking about and throws the dagger back. After which he shows his hand and tells the little girl to look because there is nothing there. And the young lady smiles and says that indeed there is nothing, and it looks like she was mistaken. At this time, the Duke turns to her and asks why she was so worried, and the little girl replies that she was worried. But the Duke then asks if this is so, and the little girl answers yes, after which the butler turns to Mrs. Ellie, and he asks if she will give him medicine here. He also sometimes gets headaches. The young lady then agrees and places the medicine in his hand, but the Duke then turns to Franz, and also says that he will take the medicine. The butler is a little surprised after this, and the Duke just snatches the medicine from his hands. The man then thinks, is this really a man who has never even had dizziness? She takes medicine for a headache, and the Duke at this time asks for what purpose she brought it, and clearly not to simply give the medicine. The young lady then thinks that he is so smart and can't get away with it. She understands that today she just wanted to show the spit all her good nature and leave. Well, if that's the case now, she turns to him and claims that he had previously said that she could choose a family for adoption. The man replies that this is true, and the little girl asks if she can choose again, to which the man asks if she really wants to change her family, and also whether he is going to give up on something that is going well anyway. The little girl then thinks that she thought he would be against it. However, the man then claims that there must be a reason for refusal and asks what kind of family she wants to go to. And the young lady then replies with a smile on her face that she wants to go to the Schutz family. The man is a little surprised after this, and the young lady understands that she is not going to stay long. And when she gets older, she will prepare a renunciation of adoption, and so asks to let her stay for a while. The man simply claims that this is absurd and he can't stand being disturbed. And especially if they are children, the little one then understands that he just threw her out of the field without warning. After which she says okay and asks for forgiveness and will go with that. The young lady also bids goodnight to the Duke and then leaves, and the butler then turns to him and claims that Mrs. Ellie is still young as well. Wouldn't it have been better to say it more gently? The Duke at this time claims that it is medicine for children, and the butler says that it is because she is a child. The man then claims that she is trying to get rid of the headache caused by the curse with medicine, and moreover with children's medicine that does not work on adults. He also realizes that there is a possibility that this child is an imperial spy. But despite the fact that he knows this well then and now, he thinks why worry about her at all? The next morning, the main character sits lost in thought and realizes that she expected the Duke not to accept her. But he was more decisive than she thought. The girl also understands that if she were not a bride but a daughter, the process from divorce to refusal of adoption could be shortened. Well, then she understands that he probably doesn't want to adopt the daughter of the gate. And also this is a problem for the status of the Duchy of Schwyz. But it was 4 years ago before Damien went to war, and 5 years later, the main character will appear, and therefore she has 9 years. The girl also understands that this is enough and she can do it, after which she gets up from her bed and realizes that she needs to find a way to build her life before the heroine arrives. At this time, someone claims that it is an honor to help in the Duke's training. And Vera claims that at first she couldn't believe it, and just kept asking him, and the young lady claims that she is also so excited and hopes that Damien and the Baron will get along well. The young lady understands that this is a hint about the mine, and it must have helped the defense a lot, and he will train the boy from this age. Well, she is still worried about the fact that the guy is sharpening his teeth on the contrary. Well, the young lady thinks that everything will go to hell if the Baron helps, and Damien refuses. And just in case it is worth starting to act in advance, however, when the young lady enters the room, she sees that the guy is sitting on the ground and she immediately runs up to him in excitement and asks what is wrong with him and if he is hurt. The girl takes him by the cheeks and says that they are red and also under the gun, and that is not good, after which she asks to tell the leader to call the doctor. But the young man replies that he is not hurt and it was a little hard, so he sat down. The main character then asks if this is true, and the young man replies that yes, and he really isn't lying to her. Then the girl says that thank God. Vieira also greets the Duke and states that judging by the knight's expressions, it looks like he is having a difficult training session. The main character looks at the others at this time, and she thinks how hard it was that everyone looked so tired. The girl also understands that despite the fact that the guy is a future sword master, he is still a child, and they should be more lenient with him. And also, are they really treating him badly since he just came there recently, after which the young lady turns to the guy and claims that she will come occasionally from now on, after which the young man asks if this is true, and the main character claims that she will make sure that no one creates difficulties for him too, which her young man replies that it really isn't difficult for him, and the young lady asks what he's talking about, and also does he really just not want her to come, to which the young man shakes his head and replies no. After which, with puppy eyes, he claims that it is very difficult for him, and the knight then goes into shock and thinks that it was they who created difficulties for him. The guy then says that it seems to him that it won't be difficult at all if Ellie is around, so if she comes more often he'll be glad, and the main character then thinks that she's seen this somewhere before, and remembers the young man struck by hair. And he did this when he did something wrong. And then the guy ate Betty's sweets. But the main character understands that the guy can't lie, after which she strokes his head and says that she understands and will come more often in the future. The girl also says that Damien tried hard and he is a good guy, and the woman watching these two says how charming they are. The knights are almost crying at this time and begging for mercy, but at this time someone else enters the room and greets the young Duke. It turns out to be the Baron, and when he sees his wife with the girl, he asks if they are there too. The young lady then greets the Baron, and he claims that he did not think they were together. The little girl claims that she came to thank him for the training and asks if it is really a problem that they came, but the man replies that it is not, and on the contrary, Mrs. Ellie helped him a lot, and he was also going to give it to her at another time, but since she came, he will give it to her in advance, after which the man hands her the gift, and the main character looking at him asks if this is really an onion. The man claims that this is a gift from him for the young lady, and the little girl is a little surprised and also thinks, if this is really not a gift for Damien. She also realizes that it looks like a good bow SSY with a small consumption of mana, and her hint must have been more useful than she thought, but she got a great gift. The young man is glad time climbed and realizes that even he has not been given a gift yet. And the main character at this time wonders if swords are not used more often on the battlefield than a bow. The man replies that it is true, and the girl is well informed, but their abilities in making swords are limited. The main character then realizes that the defense's abilities have not yet reached the stage of making balls, and in this case hints are of no use. The man at this time claims that he is not sure about Eborg, and the main character asks who he is, after which the man replies that he is a blacksmith working in the duchy, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that all the knightly swords are made by him. The little girl then asks if she can ask him to do something, and the Baron is a little puzzled and states that Eborg is currently blind in one eye. And the main character then asks in shock if he is really blind, and the man replies that yes, and the doctor said that he could go blind in the other eye. The young lady then wonders if even a doctor can't cure this disease, and the man replies that no, and if it were his ability he would have done it long ago, but Eborg himself refuses treatment. The young lady then wonders why, but then realizes that if she asks the Baron she will look like an information digger, so she should stop and ask someone else. After which, the little girl says that it means he has his reasons for that, and the man asks if she will ask more. The girl answers that yes, and her mother told her. That one should not carelessly ask about other people's affairs. Therefore, probably he also did not tell him the reason, and the girl asks if this is so, and the man answers that it is true, after which the young lady smiles and then asks if they will train, and also states that Damien is still eating, so let the man take care of him. The little girl also understands that she means to be more lenient with the guy, and wonders if the Baron understands her. The girl also understands that now she can find out about Eborg. Well, then someone touches her hand, and when the young lady turns around, she sees Damien there. The girl asks what is going on, and the young man claims that he doesn't like that person, and the main character then looks at the guy and then again, defensively, and thinks what the child is saying, and thank God the Baron didn't hear. The young lady then asks why, and even if he looks like a grandfather, he is very, very strong and tall, but the guy then only clutches his shirt and claims that the man is bad. After all, he said these rude things to her, and the boy with tears in his eyes claims that Ellie is not bad, but he made him angry, speaking unflatteringly about her, after which once again screams that Ellie is not bad, and this man got angry and called her a bad child and also drove her away. The young lady then pats the guy on the head and claims that she is fine. And the young man trusts her, and that is enough for her, but the boy asks if that is really enough. Well, the young lady notes that, of course, so she hopes that he will trust her with the defense just as he trusts her. After all, it will help a lot, Damien. The young man then says that it is good, and if Ellie wants it, then he agrees, after which the young lady asks if it is true, and also hugs the boy and claims that this is an excellent solution, from which the young man gets a little scared, after which he turns to Ellie. And the girl at this time thinks that if this were the original story, then Damien wouldn't hate him so much. And it's all because she came with him, and it's also enough that everyone will treat only her badly. Now the young lady turns to the boy and says that she will be there then and wishes him a successful training, after which she understands that now there is only one way for Damien to become stronger. After all, if the people of the Schutz family recognize Damien, then others will not be able to show hostility towards him, and now the young man begins training. And also attacks the Baron, but he deftly repels the attacks. The butler at this time approaches them and says that Madame was there, and Mrs. Ellie, the young lady, then asks what his fate is there, and the man asks if today isn't the first day of the Duke's training, and naturally he should come. And he was of course worried, but it seems the gentleman is doing well. The main character replies that yes, and she thinks the Baron is also taking this seriously. After which she also shows the bow and claims that he did it for her, and also it is a bow made from a recently discovered mineral. The young lady understands that she has increased the Baron's favor, and he thinks that he should notice, but the butler only looks away and says that the Duke has lost the initiative. The young lady understands that this is some kind of sluggish reaction and wonders what he is holding behind his back. After which the girl tries to look there and thinks that the man is hiding it, and that is why she is even more curious. But at this time some sound comes from the training hall, and the main character looking at the boy is a little worried about him. The butler then asks if she will go and see, and the girl clenches her fists and claims that she wants to go, but will not do it. She understands that she cannot always stand up for him, and that in order for the guy to proudly inherit the family name, he must rise up on his own. At this time, the Baron stands with the ball aimed at the young man and understands that he tried several times to adjust to the tempo, but Togo himself, without realizing it, got lost. He also understands that the Duke's current fencing leaves much to be desired, but his ability to read moves and attack mercilessly is excellent. But even experienced knights on the battlefield cannot read movements so quickly, so he wonders how this little boy managed to do it. At this time, the young man runs up to the Baron again and attacks him, but he repels the attack, and the man understands that before he came, the knight had opposed him, and judging by their expressions, the training turned out to be more difficult than expected. But now the Duke is crossing swords with him, and when he lived, there were times of confronting monsters. At this time, the boy falls and the man tells him to get up because the training is not over yet. The young man just looks at him a little angrily, and the man wonders if that experience really created this skill, after which he claims that there are two types of fencing. And this fencing is for attack as well as defense, and only its attacking ability is excellent. But his sword still cannot protect others, after which the young man clenches his fist, and he rises again, and also breathing heavily, he looks clearly at the Duke. Here he gets a little scared, after which the sword falls out of the young man's hands and he says that that's enough for today and let the guy have a good rest. The guy then claims that he can still continue. The Baron says that by showing his weaknesses, he is missing his chance to win, so they will see each other again after a break. After that, the Baron talks to the Raws, and when he turns around, he sees that the young lady approaches the guy, after which he smiles and understands that now it is clear to him why Duke Schutz brought this child. The young lady then turns to the guy and realizes that this is the first time she has seen him so upset, after which she thinks how she should proceed since he has an aversion to defense. Well, the young man just turns to Ellie and claims that he will try and become a strong person. The main character then smiles and realizes that she didn't need to worry because the guy now has a goal, and that's a good change. After which the girl says that he is already strong enough, but the young man replies that in order to protect the people dear to him, he must become even stronger, and now he can't do anything. The young lady then thinks that he says this phrase in the original story at the moment the main character appears and thinks it's okay that he said it now, after which she claims that then he should eat more in the future. The guy asks if it has anything to do with food, and the girl replies that of course if he eats well, he will be able to fight one against 17. The girl also realizes that she has wiped everything, and at this time someone turns to the Duke and Mrs. Ellie. It turns out to be the maid. And she claims that lunch is ready, and that you can't skip lunchtime, so they suggest going together. The young lady then agrees and tells Damien to go with her because he needs to eat and get stronger. A little while later, they are already heading down the road, and the young lady sighs, and also says that it is quite chilly today. The guy claims that he is nevertheless happy to hang out with Ellie, and the young lady asks if this is true. The young man then begins to blow warm air, and the main character asks if he repeats after her. The young man then replies that yes, and the girl thinks how cute he is, after which she says that it's great, and also suggests going that way this time. But then the maid turns to the Duke and Mrs. Ellie, and also claims that that road is dangerous, so she suggests going the other way. The main character then asks why. When she turns to the maid, she asks why she covers her nose, after which the woman apologizes to the mistress and claims that there is some kind of stench nearby. And also, her nose is more sensitive than other people's, and the smell on the training ground was also pungent. The little girl then asks if it's true what he tells her that she doesn't feel any smell. But then in shock, she asks if it really comes from her and that it definitely isn't Damien because he smells fragrant. The maid then screams that this cannot be, and Mrs. Ellie as well as the Duke always smell of flowers. The woman also claims that she wants to show them a place, so she suggests following her, after which they approach one of the lakes, and he claims that this place is called the Red Lake, which is only on their territory, and also many people who came too close to the lake out of curiosity about its color drowned. And she brought them there to let them know in advance about the danger of this place. The main character wonders if people really fell there and fell into eternal sleep, and the woman replies that every year there were incidents, so they thought about filling it up. But because of the magic, it never filled up, so the two of them shouldn't go near the lake. The main character immediately turns to Damien and asks if he heard, but the maid stands behind the mistress and tells her to promise too. The young lady then gets a little angry and claims that she is older than Damien, but suddenly they hear some noise from behind the door of the hut. The main character then gets scared and hugs Damien, but then a man comes out of there. With an eye patch and drops of red liquid on his beard, crows also fly away from that place. And the main character watching this man wonders if he is an evil demon. Well, he just drinks something from a bottle, and the main character thinks that it smells like alcohol, and there is also some kind of sour smell coming from him. At this time, the maid greets him and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and also asks if the man remembers her, but he only claims that he told her not to turn the children there, and it is dangerous there. The woman then replies that she knows, however. She still covers her nose, and the young lady realizes that it was difficult for her to be near him because of the smell of this man, after which the maid suggests that they quickly leave there. But after this, the woman only says that this is Mr. Eborg, and the main character hearing this understands that this is the same blacksmith who forged Damien's sword. When they finally leave from there, the maid seems to have escaped from the lair of monsters, but the main game does not turn to her and asks if this is really the same Eborg who made weapons for the duchy, because she heard about it from the Baron. The maid replies that yes, it is an old story. The young lady asks if he is making it now since he is blind. After which, the woman replies that the guy's daughter fell into a red lake and fell into eternal sleep. She also says that it was a long time ago, and everyone in the duchy knows about it, and the young lady understands that that is why he smelled of alcohol. After all, he is so sad that his daughter has fallen into eternal sleep, and he also has problems with his eyes, and the woman claims that they say Ebort became like this after Yuri fell into eternal sleep. And it was hard for him after his daughter's immersion in eternal sleep. However, Yuri comes to the duchy and communicates with the lady who was the same age as his daughter. He avoided depression, but after she left this world, he drinks alcohol all day long, and according to the duchy doctor, he continues to refuse treatment. The young lady then says that's how it is. And the woman says that now they know and let them never go near the Red Lake, and also asks if they understood, to which they answer yes. And then the woman says goodnight to them, and the young lady thinks that she is a little worried, and maybe it is because she remembered her mother. After which the young lady hugs the guy and offers him to sleep. The girl also understands that she is worried about him. So tomorrow she needs to go there, despite the fact that she gave the maid a promise. The next day, the main character finds herself on the street and realizes that she was out in the cold all day yesterday and caught a slight cold. However, she did not expect that just because of one sneeze, they would call the Duke's doctor and everyone there would be so caring. Then the young lady goes to the tree and sees the doctor from the duchy coming out of the man's hut. The doctor tries to fight off the crows, and the young lady wonders if today is the day of Eborg's treatment, after which she realizes that everything worked out well, because this way she can ask about Eborg. The young lady then turns to the doctor, but he only contacts the Viscount through the orb and tells him not to worry because Eborg is now completely blind in one eye. And he believes that the more drugs he takes, the worse his condition becomes. Vec then tells the guy to make sure of this. After all, without Eborg, no one would be able to create a sword that contained the aura of the Duke, and without weapons, the military power of the Schutz Duchy would be weakened, and this was a great opportunity for their Quintar family to engage in arms trading. The doctor then replies that yes, and he understood him perfectly well, and now it will be difficult for Schutz to cope alone. The Viscount replies that yes, their duchy is nothing without Eborg, and also the mineral discovered by the Baron should not be given to Eborg. The doctor replies that he is closely monitoring this, and the young lady wonders what it is. The man at this time asks if everything goes well, will he definitely transfer part of the rights to trade weapons to him? Vec then asks if he really looks like a liar, and the doctor answers that in no case. And why should he doubt him? The main character at this time thinks whether they have already completely gone crazy. A little while later, the man wakes up, and he thinks that it is especially noisy today. He also turns to someone and asks if they could be quieter. However, when he sees the young lady, he is a little surprised, after which he immediately grabs her and asks what she is pretending to be doing. It is very dangerous there. He also asks if she has completely lost her fear, and the young lady then greets the uncle. The man then wonders if she has gone crazy, or if she is tired of living. He also understands that he himself, without noticing, began to scream. And people are already scared of him, and this child will definitely cry. But the main character now only apologizes and thanks him for saving her. The man is a little surprised after this and claims that he did not save her, and also asks what she forgot about the young league, but only hands him an arrow. And she asks if it's cool because she received it as a gift, but she's never shot a bow, and also doesn't want anyone to get hurt, so she came to a deserted place to practice. The girl understands that she knows that he is interested in this, after which she turns to the man and asks if he wants her to give him the arrow, after which he asks if he will give her this arrow from what suddenly, the girl understands that he doesn't take his eyes off this arrow, but the man just turns away at this time. And he claims that he is not such a shameless person to take things from children, after which the young lady says that if you think about it, Baron Amantha, who gave it to her, will be upset if she gives it to him. Then she says that she will lend it to him for a short time and let him look at it as much as he wants, and then he can return it to her. The man then looks at the arrow and seems to be telling him to look at it because he is interested in what material it is made of. After which he finally says that he will look, and the young ladies understand that this is a successful way to attract attention to new minerals. At this time, the man suggests that they go inside first, because if they just stand there, they might freeze. After which they enter the room, and the main character thinks how much dirt there is in this house, and also the strong smell of alcohol. At this time, the man tells her to sit over there because of some child, he now also has to do some unplanned cleaning. The young lady then thinks and realizes that there are forces that seek to harm the Duchy of Schutz, and Eborg's misfortune has become an opportunity for them. The man sees practically nothing, and his loss of vision may be their doing, but we cannot allow his vision to deteriorate. After which the young lady looks at the table and thinks, if these are medicines, and also when she sees this color, she thinks that it is suspicious and she needs to take it with her. But when the man turns to that young lady and only pretends that she is cold, he then claims what a capricious child she is. And then he lights a fire in the fireplace, and the young lady thinks she wonders if he's eating normally, and then claims she's hungry. The man claims he has no food, and the little girl asks what he eats then, after which he remains silent, and claims about the young lady that this is not right because there are only bottles of alcohol around, and in order to become healthy, he needs to eat a lot, because they say that you need to eat well in order to live well tomorrow. Well, the man claims that he has heard this many times, and he had a daughter who was much more beautiful and smarter than her, but now she is not answerable. She drowned in that very lake. And all this is because of him, because he should have told her not to go there, and he should have been more careful, but he couldn't. The main character then says that it is not the uncle's fault, and that her mother also fell into eternal sleep because of her, and the girl also claims that her mother did not do good deeds, and she is not going to justify her because she did badly. However, if she had not been there, then perhaps she would not have made such an unwise choice. But nevertheless, if her mother had such experiences, she would have said the following. This is that it is not her fault, so if his daughter were with him now, she would say exactly this. The man then looks at the young lady with a little surprise, and also claims that several years ago, there was a person who said the same thing as she did, and now this person is not in their world, but they are very similar. A little while later, the young lady says that it is time for her to leave because she might be scolded for being gone for so long. The young lady also claims that she lent him the arrow only for today, and instead she offers to play with her and her friends tomorrow. because she was going to have fun with them and asks if he doesn't mind. The man replies that it's fine and asks where he should go. And the girl replies that she is going to the duchy, to which he is only surprised by the young lady. He smiles, after which he leaves and also claims that he will wait for his uncle. The man is then left alone near the hut and also realizes that he never thought that there was anything in the duchy. Such a small servant, but she does everything in her own way, after which the man also holds an arrow in his hands. And he understands that for the first time in a long time, a long night awaits him. The next morning, he is already heading off somewhere. And he realizes that he spent the whole night looking at this arrow and couldn't really sleep. He also realizes that it would be better for him to see the ore himself, from which the arrowhead is made, but then he thinks who will entrust the work to the blacksmith, who hasn't used his hammer for 10 years. And looking at the duchy building, he thinks how long it's been since he was next to him. He also thinks that there will be trouble if he sees the Duke, and he won't even be able to raise his eyes to him. The man also wonders if he smells of alcohol because he can't afford to stink in front of his children. At this time, the knights turn to the man and ask why he came there, but then they also ask what he has in his hands. And when they see the arrow, they start to take out their swords and tell him to reveal his identity. The man then tells them to listen and wants to introduce himself, but he realizes that there are no people left in the duchy who know him. And she also thinks how to explain everything to him, but at that time someone opens the gate and says that he was gone for so long that she couldn't recognize him. It turns out to be Vera, and she is a knight. They ask if she knows this man, and the woman replies that she does, and she knows him very well, after which he says that they haven't seen each other for a long time with Eborg. A little while later, he thanks her and claims that thanks to her, he was able to enter. The woman says that it is quite natural that he will not be welcome there if he comes only with an arrow in his hands. After which, the woman tells him to come in because Mrs. Ellie is waiting for him. The man then mutters under his breath, "Isn't that little girl a maid?" and then enters the room. And the main character turns to her uncle and says that he came early and also greets his madam. The man only wonders if this is Baron Amantha, and the Baron in shock asks if this is Eborg, and also wonders how he got there. The young lady claims that she invited him to present the harrow, and he is her friend who is interested in weapons. He also liked the gift he gave her, and since the Baron makes weapons, she thinks they have something to talk about. The man then asks how this is possible, and the main character tells her uncle to sit there, after which he does so, and the Baron asks what it means that Vera heard from Ellie about his visit and went to meet him. The man replies that yes, and such a thing happened in his life. The young lady understands that the Baron suspects her again, but in this case it is necessary to change the subject, after which the little girl turns to her uncle and asks how he likes the arrow, and the man replies that thanks to it he got a good look at her, and yesterday he didn't know that she was a noblewoman, so he was a little rude. The girl replies that everything is fine and he shouldn't pay attention, and the Baron at this time turns to the man and says that if he looked at it, then what does he think about this arrow? And the man replies that it is an amazing thing, and asks how he came up with the idea of using monsters as consumables. And after this, the main character giggles in her mind and understands that everything is going according to her plan. At this time, the young man thinks that Ellie seems to like cocoa and slips it to the young lady. The girl then asks if he is going to drink, and the guy replies that he thinks Ellie should drink it, to which the young lady asks why. But at that moment, she hears someone screaming that he thinks so too, and when she turns around, she sees that it is the Baron. He, grabbing Eborg by the shoulders, claims that he also thinks that it is better to make balls than arrows, and he knew that the man would say so, after which he asks if he has decided and if they will try to do it together. The man also claims that with his skills he can create a great thing, but then he realizes that he went a little overboard and apologizes. And he also claims that his eye has not yet recovered, and also asks if he still does not think about undergoing treatment. But the man is only interested in what the Baron is talking about, and he diligently carries out the treatment. The Baron asks what he is talking about, and Eborg claims that he even received a prescription from Dr. Dierne. Well, then he is shocked and thinks that today, while looking at the arrow, he forgot about the medicine, but then he also doesn't understand. Why does he see more clearly than usual? The Baron asks if he got the prescription, and the man thinks, did this medicine really have a bad effect on his vision? After which he turns to the Baron, and he says that he has a favor to ask of him. The young lady is watching him at this time. Meanwhile, the Duke is talking to the other aristocrats, and someone claims that he is starting a periodic report on each territory. One of the men then thinks that if that thief's daughter becomes the heir, then problems with the imperial family cannot be avoided. And he also thinks what will happen if the Duchy of Shoots collapses because of this, because even with the right to trade weapons without the Duchy of Shoots, it will not work. After which he looks at Viscount Quintar and wonders if he has come up with any plan. The Duke at this time only sits with a jar of pills, and also remembers how the young lady told him not to get sick. The knight watching this thinks, what kind of bottle of medicine is this that pleases the Duke all day long? And the man at this time says that then they will begin. And then one of the people says that, to begin with, they will begin a report from their lands, and this time there is a new development there. Then someone else reports on their lands, and their Duke says that it is not bad, and also tells them to report further. One of them then claims that in Quintar they created a new weapon reducing the existing disadvantages and increasing the advantages, unlike the previous heavy swords. It is light and easy to use. The man then takes out this sword and says, "That is why. I would like to dedicate it to the Duke." He understands that until now the balls for the Duke were forged by Eborg, but now everything has changed, and if they do not catch the monsters raging outside, the land will suffer great losses. Therefore, Duke shoots. It is necessary to use only their swords. The Duke is silent at this time, after which he turns to Baron Amantha and asks how the development of the recently discovered material is going, and he replies that yes, and the development is going smoothly. But the man then says that he is interested in what he means by the word smooth. The one who offers the Duke a sword claims that he heard that he was unable to make anything except arrows, but don't all the knights of the Duchy of Shoots use swords? So arrows are out of place there, and he says that maybe it's only for a hunting competition. After this, there is silence between them, and the Duke leaves the medicine bottle alone, after which he asks Dern how Eborg is doing. The doctor then prepares to answer. But then he exchanges glances with the Viscount, after which he claims that, as always, he refuses treatment, and it is more likely a psychological factor, so they cannot force him to receive treatment, and the Duke says that this is how it is. After which, he takes the sword in his hands and says that it is really light. Alik understands that he succeeded, and Shoots finally took their sword. At this time, someone knocks on the door of the room, and the man wonders who decided to interfere with the meeting because everything almost worked out. At this time, the Duke tells them to come in. The maid then apologizes for the sudden intrusion and asks if Dr. Dern is there. The man rises from his seat and replies that yes, he is there. And the woman replies that Mrs. Ellie is complaining about the eye drops prescribed by him, after which she asks how this could have happened. And the man replies that this is some kind of misunderstanding since he never prescribed medication to her. And the maid shows the bottle with the medicine and also asks if this means that he did not prescribe this medicine. The man then looks at it and understands that this is the same medicine that he prescribed to Eborg. In order to definitely worsen the health of Eborg's eyes, he specially prepared this liquid from the cursed Red Lake, so he wonders why it ended up in the hands of the thief's daughter. And he also understands that now the Duke is considering her as an heir, and if that child had gone blind, he would have lost his life. After which he screams in shock where the girl is now. She needs to be examined because it is a dangerous drug. The woman then asks what he is saying because he clearly said that it is a medicine, but the man is interested in who said such ridiculous nonsense because it is a sure poison and measures must be taken as soon as possible. But then he says that he will now go check her condition himself and asks where the lady is, and also let her take him there faster. But when the man turns around, Eborg in front of him, who is furious, and he asks how the man ended up there, but Eborg then says that it is still a fake medicine, after which the doctor thinks what to say, and the man claims that the medicine he gave him is actually poison. At this time, the Duke turns to Dern and asks what this all means, and also whether the doctor gave Eborg a fake medicine. The audience also starts to whisper and ask if Eborg's health has improved. He looks quite healthy. The doctor then realizes that he cannot go into eternal sleep leaving everything as it is, after which he claims that he did everything as he was ordered, and that Viscount Quintar ordered him to do this. The man then asks what kind of utter nonsense this is. And the doctor wonders if he wasn't the one who said that the military power of the North would weaken only after Eborg was plunged into a crippling sleep. But the Viscount is only shocked after this and asks if the guy is really trying to blame him for the sins he committed. The doctor then takes out the ball and claims that he has evidence, after which there is a hologram in the ball about how the Viscount said that without Eborg, no one would be able to create a sword containing the Duke's aura, and without weapons, the military power of Duke Schütz would be weakened. And this is a great opportunity for their Quintar family to engage in arms trading. The man then wonders if that stupid Dern really saved their entire conversation. Well, at this time, the Duke turns to them and claims that this is all funny, and he certainly thought that while he was looking for the child, a rat was hiding. But he didn't imagine that she could hide for so long and at the same time in his castle, after which the man directs the ball at this guy. And the Viscount understands that these are the eyes of a bad man whose mania will be relieved only at the sight of a red liquid, after which he shakes, and the Duke claims that as he said this ball is much lighter than others and easy to wield, so it will be easy to cut the enemy. The knight then understands that the Duke is furious, and if this continues he will lose his composure. Well then, Eborg turns to the knight and says that after 10 years he dedicates this sword to him. He also realizes that he has a feeling as if he is at the place of execution, and the man will definitely not accept the ball from the one who let go of his hammer 10 years ago. At this point, the Duke throws the sword away from the Viscount and says how long ago it was because his hands are not used to holding all sorts of fakes. And since he got a real sword in his hands, he must try it out, and he asks if this is not so, after which he heads to the Viscount. And a little while later, the rest of the aristocrats watch this picture in shock, and the Duke, having finished his business, turns to Eborg, after which he asks what is going on. But the man also understands that he accepted the sword from him, but he must be prepared for punishment for the problems that arose in his absence, after which he claims that he will gladly accept any punishment. But the Duke interrupts him and asks how long he has to wait, to which the man is a little surprised, and Erhard replies that he means making balls. After all, it will take some time to divide them between the knights, and he would like it not to take too much time. The man then claims that he will make the balls as soon as possible. And the Duke only exchanges glances with him, and the knight watching this understands that fortunately Eborg's affairs and the revelation of the conspiracy were resolved well, and since the Duke's madness finally saw the red liquid, then he must have calmed down. But he still wonders why the Duke's aura hasn't dissipated yet, and whether such a quantity of red liquid couldn't calm him down. After which the man moves on, and the knight in shock asks where he is. At this time, the Duke only opens the door to their room for the young lady, and she asks what is going on. But the man just starts shaking the young lady and talks about her eyes, because he was told that she put some strange medicine in them, after which the young lady says that she feels dizzy. And she also wonders if the lie has really been revealed because, judging by the red liquid on his clothes, things turned out okay. After which she doesn't even know what to say, and understands that she should have gone there in person and pretended to put eye drops in her eyes. At this time someone turns to the Duke, and it turns out to be the maid, after which she claims that she did not think that he would come, so she could not prepare anything. At this time a knight also runs into the room and screams where the Duke went without saying a word, and so quickly, after which he sees the Duke near the young lady, and also tells him to go there quickly, but he doesn't even move. The main character only smiles after this. And when they leave the room, the knight sighs heavily, and the Duke asks why he keeps sighing, to which the guy asks if it's true. He asks because he doesn't understand what's going on. The man replies that if he knew, he wouldn't have asked the question, and the knight hands him a handkerchief and tells him to first wipe off the red liquid, and also claims that he means Lady Ellie. The Duke then tells the knight to speak more clearly, and he claims that they have long been accustomed to the Duke putting someone into eternal sleep. But Mrs. Ellie is still a child, and she was probably very scared when she suddenly saw the red liquid, but if other children had been in her place, they would have lost consciousness. At this time, the maid also comes out into the corridor and claims that it seems the Duke dropped it, so she brought it to give to him. The man then says that this is how, and takes the bottle of medicine. Well, the maid claims that Mrs. Ellie got this medicine from her, and apparently didn't drink it herself and gave it to the Duke. The knight then claims that if it were him, he would have drunk it right away. After all, he wouldn't care whether such a fastidious person is sick or not. But the Duke then only reaches out to the knight and snatches the handkerchief from his hands and also tells him to give it here, to which the guy agrees. After which he remembers how the young lady looked at him and also asks Ante if other knights usually carry something like this with them. The young man answers that of course not, and the Duke says that he should distribute one among them so that they could wipe off the red liquid at any time. And it can be made from any fabric. He also recalls how the maid approached Mrs. Ellie and asked how she got the abrasion on her face. The little girl claimed that she had scratched herself with a handkerchief that the knight had lent her, and now the Duke was thinking about it and then telling them to make it out of the softest fabric. He also realizes that Ellie can borrow a handkerchief from the knights, so it's better to take care of a beautiful pattern on the handkerchief, after which he also turns to Rona and tells her to order the servants to put something like floral patterns on the handkerchiefs, and Auntie will handle the distribution. The knight is silent after this, and the maid replies that she obeys, after which the Duke leaves, and the maid then asks if something has happened to him. A little while later, someone tells the gentleman and lady that they have arrived, and the young lady is only surprised and realizes that this is the Schutz estate Felingu. When the young lady gets out of the carriage, she thinks that there are a lot of people there. At this time, the boarder turns to the lady and asks if she really does not want to visit the shopping street, because in Hertz, he first gave permission for the long-awaited walk. The girl then answers that yes and says that she likes this market and also understands that after her adoption is rejected, she will need the power of another trading company to conduct business under her own name. And when the chance came, she had to do some market research, so now the girl tells Damien that they can go and there are a lot of people there, so it could be dangerous and he should never let go of her hand. The young man then asks if he should let go of his hand if there are few people, and the girl understands that it seems like he is scared because of the large number of people, and says that if the boy wants, they can continue to hold hands. The guy then asks if this is true and asks her to promise that she will not let go of his hand, to which the young lady agrees and suggests going in one direction or another, after which they approach one merchant who says that this is a new weapon that arrived only today, and the girl understands that as expected, the North is most prepared to fight monsters. After that, they eat something, and the young lady asks how the guy is and if it is tasty. After that, the young lady also notices that he has sauce on his face, and she wonders what to do since she doesn't even have anything to wipe it with, but one of the knights hands her a handkerchief and tells the lady to use it. The main character then looks at him and thanks him, and also understands that it seems he likes beautiful things, and also wipes the guy's face. The main character also thinks that this is enough to just look around, and now she wants to know more about the things sold there, after which the young lady looks at one potion, and the man asks if she is interested, to which the girl replies that yes, and that it is so surprising. The man also asks if she even knows how much it costs. But when a knight appears near the young lady as well as the maids, he says that if she has enough money, she can take one look, after which the young lady says that it is amazing, and asks what it is, and the man replies that it is a potion that notices wounds. He also addresses her as an honorable lady and claims that this is for minor bruises, but it is better to go to a priest if something serious. The girl then understands what a minor effect is for such a price, and it is better to go to the temple, which will cleanse the Duke of Madness Schutz, but nevertheless poor people are not able to ask for divine help. That is why they buy such potions. The woman turns to Mrs. Ellie and asks if she is in pain and why she is interested in healing potions. The little girl replies that she is fine and that she was just thinking about giving it to the Duke when he is sick. And then one of the maids says, how about buying one as a gift, because in their estate there is a custom that when children first go out for a walk, they buy their parents gifts, and this makes the gift more meaningful to the recipient. The main character then thinks about the word gift and realizes that a potion for Duke Schutz, who didn't even blink an eye when he was given a cure for a headache, would not be better suited. And the young lady understands that in no case will he be delighted with this, and the little girl then says that she will not buy it but would rather look at something else. After which the young lady looks at the jewelry and thinks how beautiful it is, and the seller turns to her and says that she has a diamond eye and how about choosing one for herself. The young lady looks at one of the earrings and realizes that they are like Damien's eyes, after which she thinks whether to buy them, after which she buys something. And she realizes that they are done with the gifts, after which she turns to the maids and says that they are leaving. Well, then she looks at the maids who seem to be jealous. And she wonders if they are also expecting a gift from her. The girl understands that although they treat her like this by the Duke's order, in reality, they are very polite people, and she has never bought anything for anyone but to express gratitude to everyone in the castle. The girl thinks that maybe she should buy something, but still wonders if they will like her gifts, and what if not? At this time, someone else comes up to the shop and says that it is very beautiful. The man then tells them to come and look because this is a handmade product and they are inexpensive but quite popular. The woman then asks if this is true and claims that the sparkling one really does look nice and that she can choose one for their child, to which he agrees, and the main character wonders why there is suddenly a crowd there, after which they buy something, and when the man wraps it up, the young man puts one of the decorations in his pocket, and the main character, seeing this, understands that this is what Duke Schuitz felt when he noticed the skill of her dexterous hands. The girl also understands that these are not her things, so it doesn't matter if she passes by, but she doesn't want to allow such antics in the area where she plans to do business in the future. After which she turns to the guy and asks where he is going, but he asks what she needs, and the little girl claims that she saw him steal something from there. The woman then asks what the girl is saying now, and did their child really do something? And the young lady thinks that they have hit the nail on the head and that it will be perfect as a first gift for the Duke. The woman at this time claims that they knew nothing about it at all. And the man claims that the child simply made a mistake in his childish stupidity, after which he says that he should apologize quickly, but when the knight looks at them angrily, the man, now a little more agitated, turns to his son and says that he will not do it again. And where did he learn to steal like that? He also apologizes and claims that they are looking after this child but cannot change his habits. And if they are still angry, then let them take him away and do whatever they want with him. They can at least punish him or use him as a slave because it was his own decision. But the young man then asks in shock what they said because they themselves ordered him to do it. They also said that they would return his thing to him and give him bread if he did everything as they said, but the man wondered when he said that and what kind of nonsense the guy was talking. After which he pushes the guy away, and the main character thinks what they are doing with the child now and tells them to stop. She does not think that they are real parents, and they are more like villains who lure children in difficult situations and then use them. The girl then says that they said that they did nothing wrong, and why beat a child who has nothing to do with them, but the man only pushes the young lady, and he asks what she is barking about. The maid immediately runs up to the mistress and asks if she is okay and whether to call a doctor or a carriage, after which they all look angrily. But this man is only frightened and then says that it's time for them to run. But the maid screams for Sir Ryan to grab them, after which the man runs after them, and the maid turns to the lady and asks if she can get up. The young lady replies that of course, and she didn't like it at all, after which she asks if Damien will help her. The young lady also turns to the guy and tells him to wait, after which she hands him the bracelet and claims that she is returning it to him. The guy then asks in shock how she found it. And the girl replies that earlier when she grabbed that man's pants, this thing fell out by accident. Damien then tells Ellie to be careful. She is a young lady, claiming that the guy had to cooperate with those people because they took this bracelet from him, and she understands the situation, but next time let him not engage in theft because it was noticeable due to the lack of skills. The young man then thanks her and claims that this is a memory of his parents, so he will definitely repay this favor. Well, then his stomach rumbles and the young lady asks if he wants something to eat. A little while later, the boy is standing with loaves of bread and thanking her for returning his bracelet, and also buying bread and milk for his younger brothers and sisters. He also claims that he lives not far from here in the Marape shelter, and if in the future his help is needed, then let it come at any time because he will definitely help them. The young lady then thinks that for a child he is quite independent, after which she says that she is fine. But when the guy says that his name is Grace, the young lady is shocked and realizes that even though it is a common name, the new one in this novel is the one who risked his life for the main character Isabel, and he is the Holy Knight of Grace. So the girl thinks that maybe this kid is the same Grace. Their main character understands that. Of course, this is not the best situation to say something like that, but he is a handsome guy, and they say that the Holy Knight Grace was a girl. At this time, the guy asks if he really has something on his face, and the main character says that no, and he is just handsome. And after that, the young man asks if this is true and thanks her. Damien looks at him, who says that after thinking again, he should have just thanked her. After which the young man moves away a little from the main character, realizing that Damian must be embarrassed by Grace, but given the guy's past, this is natural. After which the main character turns to Sir Ryan and asks if he caught them, to which the man agrees, and when he looks at the young lady, she shows him a like. The maid at this time runs up to the mistress and asks if she is in pain, and she didn't know what exactly she hurt, so she prepared various medicines. The main character then thinks, is it really true that in that short period of time that she communicated with Grace? The maid went and bought all this, after which she thanks her and claims that she is really okay, saying that thank God she did not hit herself too hard. Another maid then suggests going to the carriage to see if you walk for a long time with injuries, then something will definitely hurt. After which she turns to Sir Ryan and tells him to take the children, after which he asks for forgiveness and takes these two in his arms. The maid also says that he should send the scoundrels he caught on another carriage, and the main character wonders if they are already returning. After all, she hasn't bought any gifts yet, after which the girl turns to Ivana, Ashel, and May, and also claims that she hasn't walked around the entire market yet, and asks if she can stay a little longer. The girl also claims that she will sit quietly in Sir Ryan's arms, and if something hurts, she will immediately return to the carriage, after which the young lady asks if they agree, and the maids, blinded by the young lady's smile, say that then she needs to be careful, and one of them claims that they will go with the other knights and deal with the captured gang. The young man is still watching them at this time and understands that this is a child from a noble family, and he is even envious. The main character at this time hands him medicine and says that they will see each other next time. And also, nothing hurts her, so she gives him these medicines, after which the girl says goodbye, and also understands that in the future, her situation will be different from the previous one, but nevertheless, she asks to take care of Damien. The Duke is in his office at this time, and the man then tells him that the new sword has already been made, and then puts it on the table. And the Duke, looking at him, claims that, as expected, his skills have not rusted.